What does it take to win? Is it something you're born with? Is it the grind? Every day. Gear up. Do battle. For the 10,000th time. Or is it pushing to your absolute limits? To be faster. Always faster. Insanely precise. Totally free and at one with the game. Or maybe it's just getting to that place where nothing else matters. Nothing in the way of winning.
Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no. That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Welcome everyone back to SimSpeed TV. It's another Friday night here and we're getting ready for another weekend of V8SCOPS competition, which means of course we start with the action here tonight on the Friday, the penultimate round of the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series for 2022. 15 out of 16 events will be complete once we get to the end of tonight, and we're on the home stretch here at Sandown International Motor Raceway to make it a bit of a homecoming for most of us here in Australia, at least, to boot, as well as it being near the end of this 2022 season. My name is Daniel Gaiman, Jay Kennedy alongside me on production and commentary this evening. Unfortunately, missing Reese Gardner at the moment. Looking forward to hopefully having Reese back with us shortly, but that will come in due course, Jay, which means, well, we'll have to get you on the mic once again here tonight.
Yeah, unfortunately for everyone else, I'm back on the mic, but let's try that again. Excited to be on the mic for the first time. V8SCOPS heads to Sandown. Of course, if you need to know where it is, it's in Melbourne, just off on the eastern side of the city. Closest track to both you and I believe, Dan. So this is technically our home track. One of the coolest tracks, very old school. Something when I was doing a bit of research today, I didn't realize it actually hosted the very, very first motor race in Australia in 1904. There's your little
that
trivia
is
for the day.
quite fascinating to know indeed, because I did not particularly know that about this circuit, but it's most certainly my local circuit. I live about 10, at best 15 kilometers away from this track, so very much what I would call local if I actually went to a real life racetrack on the regular. But let's have a look at it here from the top down view. The home horsepower 2 drag strips with a couple of corners in between is what you might say, Jay, about this circuit, but there's plenty of character all the same, despite being just only a touch over 3 kilometers in length. Big curbs in the opening half of the lap. I want you to say that all the way around the lap. We've got big curbs to deal with here at this circuit tonight. And of course, that run off the end of the back straight, turn 6 down to Dandenong Road at turn 9. That's going to be one to watch, especially with the cars we've got racing here tonight. A mix of, well, 2-litre Touras up first in front-wheel drive. So we're watching to see who can get that car turned in and not understeering on them. And then we'll get to the V8s later on this evening with a game of, well, who can look after the rear tyres to maximise their exit traction through the slower turns.
One unique thing we've seen about racing at this circuit so far, real and sim, is the way that you use the curbs. Not only that there are big curbs, but you can actually jump on the inside of the curb and use the curb to propel you through the corner, almost like a motocross berm. So we'll see a lot of that tonight, the quite aggressive use of curbs, especially at Dandenong Road. You can be quite aggressive there. Also through turn 2 and 3, those curbs are very aggressive. TCRs that we've got, the 2-litre Touras coming up first, they may not handle those curbs quite as well as we'll see in the V8s later on, but the aggression that you do need to take over those curbs is very, very intense.
Sure is. We'll get to the V8s later on tonight, but let's, of course, turn our attention to the 2-litre Touras. Both categories, categories tonight are running different formats, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct, yeah, different formats, even though they're both on the same schedule.
It's very much a rarity here on the Logitech G V8SCOPS Supports schedule for this year, indeed. Actually, one of the things that did stand out to my mind when we got to it. So tonight for the 2-litre Touras, it's a 60-60 super sprint round, 20 laps a piece tonight if we don't go time certain, and the only way we're going time certain is if we get a whole bunch of safety cars to slow up the field. Qualifying sets the grid for race 1, and then we'll go straight into race 2 with the grid setting that on, the race 1 results setting the grid for race number 2 as we bring up the feed from the qualifying session now and tune in here to the number 42 of Damon Mulqueen, the man currently sitting at your provisional pole position at this stage. And, well, with heat format servers, once again, he'll get one more chance to improve his time once this lap is complete, Jay, since he'll be hard cut, which means, well, he'll get around here. And looking at the times in server, 1 minute 15, yeah, he'll miss out on another flying lap by about 10 or 15 or so, which you make it 20 odd seconds there as he comes across the line. And I don't believe he improved, not quite. 1:15.4 his last time round, with 1:15.2 his benchmark so far tonight.
Yeah, so he's going to use this lap to potentially try and improve. Ewan Baker in second to set his personal best. Actually goes to P1, so gone from Ewan to Pip Damon there, and only 19 thousandths of a second separating them. A few new names in the event tonight as well. We've got Simon Mazzomo, who's decided to jump across from the V8 into the 2-litre Touras, and Lindsay Hobbs as well jumping in tonight. It's only the 10 cars, which is a little bit down than what we've seen in other rounds, but I think because of the nature of this circuit, you don't need a huge amount of cars to have good racing here.
No, I'm sure we'll get some good racing tonight. The support series this year may not have had the strongest numbers at every round, but they certainly have delivered some of the best racing we've seen as part of the greatest SCOPS series package when it comes to fighting clean and hard, both at the front, in the middle, and at the back of the field. Final chance here for Damon Mulqueen to improve. He's got 2 personal bests apparently to his name. That might just be the fact that I was a little late.
Baker's on a good one too.
And indeed, Baker, purple sector 1, but purple sector 3 for Mulqueen. He will move himself back to the top of the charts on a 1:15.009. Baker, though, can he improve? He's a 10th down in the middle sector. I think Mulqueen has just pipped him here, and indeed has unfortunately not come together in the 3rd sector at all. Big issues for the 34 Honda. Still, looks like that's going to be a pretty comfortable front row start for him tonight.
Yeah, I can't see anyone jumping ahead of him, judging by everyone else out there at the moment. Simon Mazzomo and Lindsay Hobbs both on good laps at the moment, though, so we could see a little bit of shuffling there with only 20 seconds left on the clock. They'll be the last couple of drivers to set times. Actually, Hayden Kirk's just set a time to put himself into 4th. Hobbs will cross the line. That will be his personal best. Won't gain a spot. What will Mazzomo do? He needs to find 3/10 to gain a spot. And these sectors actually look pretty good.
Is he going to get there in time? I reckon he's going to miss the line here by about a second.
He did. Missed it.
Oh, that is
And
cruel.
the time would have been enough to put him into sixth.
Well, that is the way it works. Yeah, on the Zoom feed, I'm just checking over to look at him here. Mazomo, I think a little disappointed that one didn't quite go the way he would prefer. But, well, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. So, let's take you to the grid here for the first race in 2-litre Tours tonight. And this one, not too hard to walk us through. David Mulqueen there, as we said, getting that pole position towards the end of the session with the 1:15.010 there. On your timing, with Ewan Baker sharing that front row with him tonight. Matthew Pluck will start out of P3, just ahead of Hayden Kirk there in fourth. Ben Faulkner and Thomas Riley will round out the third row tonight there in fifth and sixth. Mazomo, as I said, going to have to settle for a P7 start with Lindsay Hobbs there in eighth. Ninth will be Isaac Edwards tonight. Shane Best, the 10th driver to be in this session. And he's on the grid too, Jay. Just had maybe a couple of issues during qualifying, but is on the grid with everyone else. So that means we now just have to wait out the timer for the race to start, thanks to the Porsche Cayman GT4 manual safety car, which I believe is in the hands of Henry King tonight. Actually, it might not be, because Henry does often like to just generally keep an eye on things here. Support Series being his main administration for V8SCOPS. So we will have to wait out the clock. We just saw there the format once again tonight. 20-lap races, a pair for 2-litre Tours, and we'll see the results from this race set up the grid for race number 2. Also got a couple of drivers here on the Zoom call this evening. Simon Zomo there, top left of screen. Ewan Baker, top right of screen. One of our few drivers running virtual reality in the series, it would seem. There, all kitted up and ready to go there. And then Matthew Pluck on the bottom there of our feed. We'll be able to check in with those guys, at least their video feeds, over the course of the racing here tonight. Time is just about hit 0. It looks like we've timed that one just right, and it's about time to get this race underway. The first of 2 tonight for the 2-litre Tours, and the first of 4 for the action from Sandown to kick off the weekend here, and V8SCOPS and the supports. We go green here, Jay, and that was a lot of wheel spin from Mulqueen, but it seems to have paid off nicely there in the getaway. Unfortunately, Lindsay Hobbs has stalled and gone nowhere off the start there in the number 4 Veloster.
I think Mulqueen got a horrible launch, as you said, but I don't think it mattered because Baker got an equally bad launch. Pluck didn't have too bad a launch. Kirk, not too bad. Thomas Riley, they're making moves already. Up a spot. Finds himself now into 5th. As you said, Hobbs dropping back a fair way, but all very close as Baker nearly slams it into the wall. We do have Shane Best in the wall in the back of shot. And we'll stay up the front here because it's side by side between Mazomo and Edwards. Seems to have had a little bit of banter about their... it's between Mazomo and Faulkner. There's been a little bit of banter going on between a few of the drivers around pace and who has good pace here tonight. Mazomo backs out of it, but Faulkner just misses the apex altogether.
To make sure, right in front of them, Thomas Riley. The 888 Alpha Venturi Hyundai Elantra's going to slide out into the dirt. Actually, it's gone a long way off there. And
look, that front wheel.
Has that car broken itself? Yeah, it sure has, unfortunately, there. That makes it 2 mechanical black flags in the space of under a lap. So that will cull down the field somewhat there. And, well, if you're someone like Lindsay Hobbs in that case, you might have had a shocker of a start, but it looks like that's not the worst thing that you could have done here, as unfortunately Shane Best and Thomas Riley will have to take a pretty painful trip back down the lane to try and fix those cars up. And given the sprint race format here and the possibility of a safety car seeming low at this particular point in time, going to be a tough ride out for them here if they choose to get back out on the track.
Both made it back to the pit lane, which is positive, and that means it will be less likely to see a safety car. Legitimate battle for both of them to get back to the pit lane, but they have got there. But the damage that they've got, I don't know if they're going to be able to get back out on track. It's going to be very, very difficult for both of them.
Yeah, that was unfortunately some fairly hefty. I have to say, in both cases, it seemed relatively light hits with the wall. Unfortunately, that was enough to break their front right corners. As Isaac Edwards has gone way too hot into Dandenong Road, Ben Faulkner looked a little bit aggressive just up the road ahead of him in the sister ICT marketing race on Oscar, but Faulkner keeps it together, trying to still fend off Simon Mazomo for his position, which is currently the fight for 5th on the road. As we jump up to the man in 2nd place, Ewan Baker holds that spot down, but he's 1.2 seconds back off your race leader, and he's only got 0.6 back to teammate Matthew Pluck there in third place as they come down to turn one. We'll stay on board here with Baker for a little bit here and see how things are going in this Honda TCR, the one of two tonight in this, well, currently still out on track, I should say. Did have 3 of the Hondas registered and on the grid earlier. And, well, Hyundai Elantra otherwise generally the popular pick in the 2-litre Tourer category at this point in time. As you can see here, though, the Honda still doing a decent job here in Baker's hands as they make their way up the backstretch.
Interesting, we've got our first Veloster in the series tonight as well. We've had the Elantras throughout the series and the Hyundais, but very limited on the number of Hyundai Velosters we've seen out on track. Lindsay Hobbs running one of them. So Baker doing a nice job. Here's Matthew Pluck. Sitting back watching. He's trying to just find a tiny little bit. Doesn't need too much to be able to gain a bit of ground. And I mean, the draft is going to help him both down the back straight and the front straight. But he just needs a tiny, tiny little bit to be able to get a move done, doesn't he? He's close, but not quite close enough.
Yep, indeed. Gap is coming down slightly there to around, I'm seeing almost half a second between second and third. And how's this actually on that last lap there, Jay? At least if my timing is to be trusted. Baker sets the fastest sector 1, then it's Pluck's turn to set fastest sector 2. Mulqueen able to snatch away the fastest sector 3 on the lap, and as a result, it turns out it was Matthew Pluck with the fastest outright lap of the 3 here, as they certainly are starting to compress a little bit here. At the very least, the gap between Baker and Pluck is coming down 100th by 100th, to be sure. It's taking a while to come down, but it's just ever so steadily edging its way closer there as they work down this backstretch. The slipstream actually really coming into effect now for Pluck. He's picked up at least a 10th, and as a result, another purple sector through the middle part of the lap.
I saw the exact same numbers as you, so your timing is to be believed, I would guess, because if we're both seeing the same thing, it would mean that we're both working out for a change. It's good to see that timing is working. Just see there, something has happened to Hayden Kirk. That is the wrong direction at Dandenong Road.
It sure is, and he's going to be joining the mechanical black flag squad, unfortunately.
Oh,
that's
bad.
interesting. That's a lot of left side damage to that car. That tells a very, very nasty tale indeed. We'll pick it up on the virtual racing score replay to break it down for you here. So
It's actually got sideways at the start of the S's here.
Oh dear, it looked okay. I was going to say that still shot was maybe a bit deceptive then as to the state of the situation for the 371 Kiwi sim racing machine. So here we go, at the end of the backstretch. Just grabs 6th for a moment there. Gets it tipped in nicely, and the rear's already going, Jay. And as a result, tries to look after it. And oh dear me, it's very hard damage. And I think that fence decided to stick him in like a bit of glue for good measure, unfortunately. So we're going to take another look at that one there from the outboard shot here at the end of the backstretch.
Yeah, so see just here sliding already. Probably a little unsettled over the curb. If that curb wasn't quite so high, he wouldn't have had as much of an issue getting it straightened up. But yeah, that's fairly hefty damage and into the lane already. He has been able to get back out on the track, so it may have just been a popped tyre. So he may have got away with that a little bit unscathed in comparison to the other guys that he's been around.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. Mechanical black flag cleared. Racing has
Lead
resumed.
is on.
For the 371, it sure is. While we've been on the replay there, David Mulqueen had an absolute shocker of a final sector, which has allowed you and Baker to be the one to start turning the screws here for that race leaders. We've got 1/4 distance complete. We'll jump back on board with the number 34 machine. Oh my word, over the curbs at turns 2 and 3. That Honda is not playing ball, to be sure. He just hangs onto it without it
see
snapping
the big
loose.
sigh. There was a huge sigh there, like, oh, how did I hold on to that?
And by some miracle, he loses at most maybe
2/10?
2 or 3/10 to Mulqueen, who
Crazy.
actually in the process did set the fastest first sector of the race, apparently. But Baker again strikes back with the slipstream down the backstretch, and then you can see here a lot of curb usage. You can get through the kink that counts as turn 7 at least, and looks to get it pulled up better there for turn 9 Dandenong Road at the moment, Jay versus Mulqueen. So the Honda got good brakes and good rotation, it would seem, compared to the Elantra at this point in time. But, well, I have to wait and see how that pans out as this race continues here. 20 laps isn't long. We said it's just about 60K race, but if you're too aggressive on the front tyres here in these cars, you can certainly overwork them temperature-wise.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, front-wheel drive tyres, front wheel drive cars, you're working the front tyres in all three aspects of the race, aren't you? Acceleration is coming from the fronts. Deceleration is going to come from the fronts just based on the nature of the car. And your turning performance is going to come from the front. So you've got to be careful in all three aspects to not overdrive the car in any. If you overdrive the car in any of those facets of the race, you're going to find yourself in all sorts of hurt come to the end, even though, as you said, it's only 60 Ks. But 60 Ks at high intensity, decent temperature out on track. I mean, it's not scorching hot, but it's still 30 plus degrees Celsius on track. So the tyre wear is noticeable enough. So, you know, you've got to be a little bit careful. You've got to be a little bit cautious. And if you can conserve the tyres a little bit, come the end of the race, your tyre performance is a lot better.
And yeah, it's quite funny because yeah, it is basically nothing to do with tyre wear, as you might see in other cars, but you would see in longer form racing in other cars. It's entirely temperature related, which is where the struggles can come. And it will therefore exacerbate a little bit of wear, but nothing really that will make massive differences. It's just enough to really throw you off their game. As top three across the line, fastest lap once again, going to the man just off screen in third place of Matthew Plucker, 1:15.115. Best of the three, only by about half a tenth though. Mulqueen did a 1:15.170 is what I'm seeing, and they're really stealing the punch out though, and that first sector loses over a tenth and a half almost to Ewan Baker in P2. So back and forth, these two cars are continuing to trade here, and Pluck maybe just starting to reset to go again here as they make their way up the back stretch once more to turn 6.
I think he's quite content just sitting and watching, isn't he? He's just content watching what's going on ahead. He's not trying to force anything, just hoping that there's a mistake ahead. They're ready to pounce. He's far enough back that he can get away from an incident ahead, but he's close enough that he's still getting draft to be propelled around. And I just saw just up the road a little bit, guys are going to encounter some traffic a little bit. I mean, Hayden Kirk did have a fair bit of damage to his car. While he did get it back out on track, it is not 100%. So he's going to be a little bit slower. If they catch him at the wrong spot, that being Mulqueen catches him at the wrong spot, that could play havoc for this lead battle.
Sure could. Obviously does have the advantage though at the same time as Mulqueen as being the first one to lead, but he's wide through turn 1. He's giving Baker a sniff here, and I have to say Baker looking very strong through sector 3 as well, Jay. Really closing up through the final 2 proper turns here at Sandown, which technically turns 11 and 12 by the track maps, because that little kink just before the timing line also counts here. But through sector 1, they look to be fairly evenly matched in the Hyundai and the Honda. So Baker not able to actually make huge grounds. Only gained about 0.06 of a second, despite Mulqueen looking wide. He looks wide through turn 6 there. Baker getting it down onto the curb a bit more as we come down to Dandenong Road once more. Very deep on the brakes. That is strong braking performance again from that Honda there, Jay. Really closing down, although it looks like that was a bit of a trade-off there. Mulqueen really maximising exit run down here to 11 and 12 that time.
That was aggressive from Baker. I didn't think he was going to pull it up. I thought he was going to make a little bit of contact into the rear of Mulqueen, but he did pull it up. Also, some good news. I've just seen that Thomas Riley is about to leave the pit lane. There, you can see him just in the background, coming back out on the track after 10 minutes of repairs. He's back going again, and will end up finishing ahead of Shane Best based on that, which will mean he'll start higher up in the next race.
Well, indeed. So good to be able to see no mechanical black flags still to be fixed up in the server at this stage. And indeed, look at that. Good awareness from Hayden Kirk. He's going to pull over nice and early and allow your top 3 to get on by here. We'll send him a lap down, unfortunately for him, but, well, better to be racing and minding your own business when you're unfortunately off your own best, thanks to the damage you've incurred and still having to manage when you've got these top 3 still working to get, well, all close to get under a second now. First 2 thirders again. Really big compression from all of them under brakes there. But Mulqueen, again, looking like he's just sacrificing a little bit of corner entry, Jay, to make sure corner exit down to turn 11 here is solid. But through turns 11 and 12, the Honda is riding the curbs better, I swear. Baker not afraid to get up on both of the apex curbs, and as a result is paying dividends for mid-corner speed. But Mulqueen looks to get slightly better initial drive once again. Then the slipstream starts kicking in as we get down to the end of the straight. So a lot of back and forth here that we're going to have to continue to watch and decipher here as they keep going at it. More curb usage from the number 34 in P2 there.
The closest they've been coming across the start-finish line, though, isn't it? So there's definitely a little bit of gamesmanship going on in this little group, as well as great pace. I mean, all three of them are lapping the fastest out of everyone in the field, but on top of that, the gamesmanship that's going on in this group is very, very entertaining to watch as well. So while this is going on as well, Lindsay Hobbs is starting to close in on Simon Mazomo, so we will go to that very soon as well. But these three at the front, they're putting on a little bit of a show here, trying to outsmart each other, out-nouse each other, seeing if one of them make an error, because I think that's what it's going to come down to now. It's just who makes the least errors in this lead group.
Would be my expectations at this point as well, because all three drivers, I should say, all lapping very consistently in the low 1 minute 15s. Although Matthew Pluck on that last particular lap, a little ways off compared to the top two. As you said, indeed, Lindsay Hobbs starting to reel on in the Audi of Simon Mazomo. And we'll see here what that number 4 Veloster can do. Again, as you said, the first time we've seen the Veloster out on circuit for the 2-litre Tourers this season. As after coming out after the Hyundai Elantra, obviously a bit of an interesting pick for the iRacing platform, given, of course, the release of the Elantra first. But then again, the Veloster here as it is, which is close enough to the i30N hatchback, much like the Elantra is technically the i30N sedan if you're someone who wants to play Australian badging snobbery here with us tonight. As a look at the slipstream for Hobbs, but Mazomo rides the middle of the road there, Jay. Not going to give an easy way through at the top of the hill for turn 6. Getting a
big
little
slide
loose
through
there,
turn 6 for Mazomo. He's pushing it. He's enjoying himself though, by the looks of it.
Oh yeah, he's Hobbs my word, Lindsay going to the grass here, but overspeed / early braking from Mazomo to make sure he didn't run it in deep, but has to sacrifice and give the apex at turn 12 away there to Lindsay Hobbs, and move made for the time being. So what can that Audi do with a bit of slipstream to try and get on back by? Because, well, yeah. Oh, okay, the slipstream is definitely valuable to the Audi. To the inside, Mazomo will look, but not going to send it under brakes here. At the start of lap 13, pulled up, focus on the exit there, but in doing so, that Hyundai looking quite nice there indeed in the hands of Hobbs. Just taking a little bit of time to maybe find his rhythm and pace, but now starting to come together. And, you know, if he can keep up the speed, might be able to have a go at Ben Faulkner, who did set their personal best last time around at 1:15.4. But if that Veloster's got the legs in clean air, might just start dragging himself up to P4 there.
Well, and it'll give him some confidence as well for the next race, won't it? I mean, the fact that he's found a bit of a groove and a bit of rhythm in the end part of this race, second half of this race, he'll take that confidence into the next one, which will literally be straight after this one. So they'll get a 1 minute break, go again, the exact same length, the exact same battles, the exact same starting grid as they finish this race. So confidence is going to be very, very important coming into that race. Matthew Pluck has dropped a little from these guys. From these guys at the front. But, Baker did drop a little halfway through that last lap, and then gained it all back up in the last sector. So there's a bit of ebbing and flowing going on between these guys right now.
Yeah, maybe just starting to just try and feel the cars out a little bit more and make sure they're managing their cars at this stage as well. We'll have to wait and see, I guess, because yeah, it certainly has calmed down a fraction, you might suggest, at this point in time, as top two wind their way down to turn 9. But Baker there is all over the curve. There is no hesitation there from Ewan to really turn the Honda in and get it all up and over that stuff there, as we see here through 11 and 12. Really carrying a lot more speed in between the corners versus Mulqueen, who we can clearly see making sure to maximize the exit, picks up a couple of hundredths for his efforts. And then As we come past pit exit, you see the timing tower starting to drop down, and we see it here on the overlay as well at the bottom of your screen. So the back and forth continuing here between your top two. Pluck now sitting at around that 1.7, 1.8 second marker. That seems
They're moving off the curbs.
More indeed. These cars certainly not gentle when it comes to the way they're coming down off the coast, but it's just the right amount of rotation and shuffling to get themselves rotated in the way they would like.
You can tell the difference between the cars quite evidently when you watch these two going at it. The Honda looks so much better under brakes, looks so much better over the curves, but the launch and the propulsion that the Hyundai is getting out of the corner just means that Baker can't do anything about the pace of Mulqueen. He needs Mulqueen to make an error to go past, I feel, at the current rate these guys are going. Pluck is trying his hardest to stick with them, but he's just not able to at the moment. So as Mizoma's just going back, oh no, side by side through the S's does not work, boys. Oh, that was a bit close.
I was going to say, my camera did flick whilst we were talking about the top three to Mizomo and Hobbs closing back up once more, and it looks like Lindsay Hobbs has had to go full defensive here. So no chance, I think, to really run down Ben Faulkner for P4 tonight. All eyes on the rear view mirror at this point in time. We'll see here, what can Mizomo do it there? 3.5 tenths off of turn 12 as they then run down the front stretch. I reckon that's about a tenth too far away at this point. As you can see here, the Hyundai has got the legs in clean air to stay ahead as they come into turn 1, but Mizomo a little tighter on the apex through that corner there, just getting it rotated a touch better. But curb behavior, you can see not really touching either the curbs for either of those drivers to the apex of the 2 and 3. And then same at turn 4, maybe the tiniest hint there of an apex touch. And then onto the back straight they will come. You see here is the stuff. As Baker's going for the lead at Dandenong, and he's actually put Mulqueen in the dirt to avoid.
Wow. We'll need another look at that, as we can see that Pluck has closed that gap down just due to that incident. But how has that played out? That's controversial, because it's almost ended both of their races.
Or has indeed. The second, well, next of our virtual racing school replays, the camera for me cut to it right as Baker looked like he was either out of control or sending it with no care in the world, as we're going to check it out here. So at turn 6, all looks pretty fine and normal. Down the hill we will come, and grabs the curb, and I think, yeah,
It's unsettled the car, didn't it?
the curb at turn 8 was enough, yeah, to eliminate the braking performance. And thankfully the rear's actually locking up, I think, giving him the rotation needed to turn it in to avoid contact, but also the awareness there from Mulqueen to realise something not quite up with the entry there from Baker at turns 7 and 8. Back to live pitch as we go there. See there, the fight with Hobbs and Mizomo will continue as they currently stand, but let's go again here at down the hill at turn 6 for these top 3. Baker a little bit too far back to do anything this time by still continuing to run it right over that curve, which means we'll now jump ourselves back to Mizomo and Hobbs. You can see here, getting the toe down the backstretch. It's going to be Hobbs to defend the inside. Mizomo looks for the inside at 6. That's going to compromise both drivers down the hill here as they then sweep to Dandenong Road. We'll see here, can Mizomo close up? He's too far back. If Hobbs is going to defend it like that, as bops over the curb there, the double cambered approach, the fact it crowns in the middle of the actual the painted stripes part, making it a little bit dicey in these cars, as we're already down to 3 laps to go for your race leaders. Not even that, Jay, as they come up through the first couple of turns of the lap here.
Yeah, this is getting pretty feisty at the front here too, isn't it? I mean, Baker showed intent, unintentionally tried to go for the lead. Very, very good save. How good was the awareness from Mulqueen going back to that little incident earlier? Mulqueen must have been paying very, very close attention to his mirrors, or has someone in his ears, because if he wasn't paying extreme close attention, he would have ended up out of the race. So he's done very, very well. You can see Baker, I think, is probably being a little more cautious than he had been earlier on in the race now because of that.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that there are no spotters in the server, at least when it comes to spotters attached to drivers. There might be some spectators in the session, since these servers obviously are, well, I believe are open to be viewed by anyone on the iRacing service in sim if you wish to spectate a race that way. And check it out for yourself through that. As 2 to go for your race leaders. It'll be 2 to go very shortly for these two drivers here as Mizomo again trying to line up Hobbs. You can see there a bit more of a square run for the number 4 out of the final turn. Actually seems to be quite beneficial there, allowing him to get better power down, initial acceleration. He's opening the gaps. I think Matthew plucks around, half a round at turn 4. As a result, though, it's become a 2-horse race for the win here, as we've got 1.5 laps to go here. Don't see Pluck getting back in that fight unless there's something major that'll happen between your top two. And I just heard it, didn't see it, so let's have a look at what happened on the Virtual Racing Score replay here, as that's a lot of curb usage, Jay.
Oh, and yeah, it's just sent him wide. 2 wheels in the grass. You can't stop the car in the grass. The front wheel drives definitely don't want to stop in the grass. So he's done a good job to not put it in the wall. He's just going to bring it home for 3rd position now, you would feel. But it is not done between the battle for 5th, and it's not done for the lead. This is very, very tight. Now, 0.2 of a second in our battle for 5th. Don't go side by side. Nope, backs out of it. Probably the smart ploy to do that.
I think the move, if possible, is going to have to be get Hobbs narrow through 6, but make sure you rotate down into the corner in behind, and then fire it down the inside with, well, earn the space on the inside for Dandenong Road, and that might just be where it can be done. As the white flag is flown for your race leaders, and Ewan Baker is throwing everything at the curbs here in the opening sector. Mulqueen, a little wide of the apex there, will run it up and over the curb there, but again, the Elantra with really good initial acceleration off these slower turns, Jay. He's almost certainly clear here as we head down to turn 6 for the final time for your race leaders. I don't see Baker making that back up. There's going to have to be a big error or some massive complication for the Elantra here as we come down the hill for the final time of Dandenong Road.
Yeah, it looks like it's all secure at this stage, but stranger things have happened. That is a huge move. Baker can't pull it up, and off the track he goes. Mulqueen back through. I tell you what, that was ambitious from Baker, but if he was going to pull it off, that was the only place and only chance he had. Good attempt, but not quite able to do it.
So Damon Mulqueen fends off the Kiwi Sim Racing challenges. Mizomo's on the outside of 6 for P numbers 5 here, as Mulqueen will take the checkered flag. How's it going between these two? Oh my word, 45-degree entry angle to Dandenong Road for Mizomo here. We might have ourselves a drag race if Mizomo can really force the issue. These two still going at it here. Hobbs trying to get the preferred entry. That opens the inside for 11 for Mizomo. Side by side as we come to the final turn here. Mizomo respects the inside. Does he get the drive around the outside there? He's not quite ahead here as we come to the line, Jay. Looks like Hobbs will indeed hang on. Mizomo gives maybe a bit too much space to ensure a clean run to the end there. Good fight all round, but I think we might want to try and, well, pick that up if we can, because Mizomo was entering Dandenong at a 45-degree angle. You don't do that in a normal situation. No,
you don't. That's just craziness. But yeah, we'll see if we can pick it up after we go through the results. This is how they unofficially, well, now it's official, they officially finished. So Mulqueen, Baker, Pluck, Faulkner, Hobbs, Mizomo, Edwards, Kirk, Riley, and Best. They will start the next race in that exact order. And let's do
an ultra quick replay if we can.
Let's see if we can get this replay in before we get booted.
I've just watched this back. Have a look at this, Jay, when we get around turn 6. Mizomo sent it, and he's ahead through turn 6. Wow. But as a result...
Oh! And how has there only been that much contact? I mean, you see there too, Hobbs has sent it deep as well, missed the apex by a mile, and unintentionally made contact with Mizomo. He's probably lucky that he outbroke himself there, because he wouldn't have been able to park the car on the inside. He would have been too far over, and Mizomo might have got the drive. But Mizomo, as you said, did probably give up a little bit too much time and a little bit too much there, being too kind and courteous. But what a fight that was. That was absolutely brilliant. Well done, boys.
It was indeed. Did you guys actually looking at that angle there? I want to watch that back one last time personally. It really looks like he rolled out of that one there and lifted off.
Well, I thought I saw a foot on the brake. I reckon I saw brake pedal. So, I mean, I'm not 100% sure. We might reevaluate that. But yeah, I thought there was brake pedal used.
Spot on indeed. Good one there. Good pick there, Jay. Unfortunately, I didn't quite spot it on the replay feed. Joys of Discord video compression, making life a beach. But indeed, Mazomo on the brakes there, giving the spot to Hobbs at the line. So actually, pardon me, we didn't invert the results here tonight. So as they finished race 1, sets the grid for race 2. Second chance for Shane drivers such as Shane Best and Thomas Riley and Hayden Kirk, all three looking to get back into that fight there as we wait for the grid timer to elapse here and get this second race of the 2-litre Tourers underway.
Looks like Shane Best won't be taken to the start, so he's had some technical issues to go with his damage to his car. He has been having some technical issues throughout the night, so a little unfortunate that he won't take the start. So this will give us a 9-car field to start this race, and we're away, and much better start from everyone this time.
Indeed, it's busy here at turn 1. Baker looking for the inside on Mulqueen, who just holds it down the inside, although where is Lindsay Hobbs gone? In behind Hayden Kirk. So unfortunately there for Hobbs, the fight with Mazomo is interrupted as it's side by side between Pluck and Ben Faulkner through turns 2 and 3. Gonna maybe give Mazomo a chance on Faulkner there, but no dice there. And in fact, a bad run for the Audi as several cars almost clipping the fence there.
Hobbs
out
hit
of
the
turn number 4, and it was Lindsay Hobbs indeed slow on the way out of turn 4 here. We'll see, has that resulted in damage? Nothing terminal or major yet, as the slipstream for Baker means the inside for turn 6 is his here at the end of lap 1. Mulqueen will respect that on the cold tyres here as they come down to the Danny Long Road for the first time. Can Matthew Pluck put some pressure on now to attackers? Look how many drivers are absolutely flinging it down the hill. Slowdowns for Isaac Edwards, Thomas Riley and Lindsay Hobbs, all three going a bit too deep at turn 6. As a result, cutting the S's as Mulqueen half a nose at the inside for the penultimate turn here. Jay, your top 3 back at it again here at the end of lap 1.
The 3 at the back of the field probably were disadvantaged by how close the whole field was. It's a bit more difficult to see the apex and see the corner when you're so tightly tucked in behind another car. Baker, again, as we said before, got the braking performance, so he should be able to out-brake Mulqueen here. Mulqueen on the outside, offline. He's going to lose an extra spot, but we've seen how good the drive's been out of the corner. You see in the background too, Mazomo is just getting past Benjamin Faulkner. He's forced up on the curb now. Faulkner's on the curb. Faulkner's going to lose a spot. Hayden Kirk, hello, where did you come from?
He's in behind all of it here, and Lindsay Hobbs is going to get on through too to reclaim a spot there.
How's
on
Hobbs still in the race after hitting the wall as hard as he did?
Indeed he is, and he's got a good run here. If he can get something done, he's up the inside of Hayden Kirk here already as we're coming to the end of the back stretch. Faulkner will move over to actually cut the slipstream off on that Veloster, and as a result, I think Hayden Kirk is going to try and move over on Lindsay Hobbs.
Oh, no.
Result contact between the two at 6. Actually going to hang on to it. No, Hayden Kirk is off and big into the tyres. Minor miracle. He has not taken anyone else with him there, but the 371 is well and truly done with Lindsay Hobbs. Unfortunately for him, that has caused him problems deep into the gravel.
Faulkner's
and in
also
fact,
got a slowdown.
Yeah, small slowdown for Ben Faulkner there, but mechanical black flags for Hayden Kirk and Lindsay Hobbs in that one. Next to the virtual racing school replays, I believe I'm hearing, yeah, tow request from Race Control.
Oh,
that car is in a bad
safety
spot.
car.
I think we are going to see the Logitech G Cayman's safety car. And indeed,
That
as
was
we
not
watch
gonna
the
work.
virtual racing school replay, safety car boards and flags are called by Race Control, and yeah, oh dear me. There is nothing left on the front end of that car, and Lindsay Hobbs, we pick him up there. Yeah, so we'll see here. Looks like it's just a bit of a squeeze from Kirk from these angles so far, and then I think he has to stomp on the anchors if I'm not mistaken there, and just nothing left in the front end of that car as a result of that.
That's just trying to stop the car, and the car's unsettled because he's just slammed on the brakes with the car coming across the nose. There it goes.
Yeah,
Wow.
and also a bit of steering there offline down the S's in the cars, making their way past the stricken 371 of Hayden Kirk now as the safety car. Oh! No, Isaac Edwards has lost it under safety car. Oh my word. The 15 machine. Under safety car conditions has thrown it off down the S's. Not ready for the stricken 371 of Hayden Kirk that is still out on track.
How have you done this, Isaac? How have you done this?
Well, they've all come barreling down at what looks to be near to racing speed.
I don't see why
Oh,
you'd
never
want to
mind.
be at racing speed, because there's no point. You can't gain positions with a pit entry, so just take your time. That's just pointless. He's just cost himself a position.
He's escaped serious damage, it seems, on his car as well. But yeah, just quite the blunder indeed. As the Porsche Cayman GT4, the Logitech G and virtual racing still safety car has now collected the field. You can see here, Ewan Baker going to try and put some real-world tyre warming measures into effect here with some side-to-side weaving. We'll see if that helps him out here. But will be interesting chat currently on the in-game radio here. As so under safety car conditions here, we'll be staying yellow for at least another lap here with the 371 still in their place there waiting for permission to tow here, Jay. So the race does calm down for a couple of minutes. And
now you said earlier you were not sure of who was driving the safety car. Who's your final decision? Considering you'd seen race control, there's like 15 people sitting there. Who's your decision on who's actually driving the safety car?
Well, if I could figure out which of the driver IDs, I just had to...
I've just looked it up, so don't cheat.
Well, good news is I'm not using the same timing software as you are tonight, so I actually don't have the IDs accessible. I have to take a wild guess at this one if I want to.
I mean, you've got about 4 options.
Correct, I do have 4 options. I'm gonna go. It's. Ooh, can I cheat? I can cheat, but I won't.
Oh,
I promise
no,
I won't.
don't cheat.
I won't cheat. The reason I was going to say I could cheat is it turns out one of the race control things got a Discord stream open, so I could.
You could probably eliminate that one.
Yeah, it's true. So, choice of 3, I'll go Ben Christensen behind the safety car.
Incorrect. It is not Ben Christensen tonight. He's
Aaron Gilbert.
He's not. It's not Aaron Gilbert either. You're right. The very first time Henry King is driving the safety car tonight for the first time in a long time. Great to see Henry out there. Of course, organizer of this series, and helping out behind the scenes in all sorts of V8SCOPS and OSR events and leagues. So Henry doesn't get to drive all that much in things other than V8SCOPS supports these days. So we'll see him out on track in the next race. Yeah, you should have trusted your original instinct about 40 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm actually incredibly disappointed with myself as a result of all that. There's also one other thing I could have done without actually cheating. It's called listening to the in-game radio and see who comes up when they talk. Because, you know, I have that available to me.
Yeah, you have that, I don't.
It. Yeah, I'm taking all the all the perks I can get tonight in terms of being in the server so I can spectate the session with my own cameras and therefore hear the in-game chat. And, well, safety car is just about going to pull away from the field here in a moment's time, leaving the field in the hands of Ewan Baker for this safety car restart. So we'll see here indeed. Henry puts the foot down, and that Porsche Cayman GT4 will be back in the lane momentarily. And once it is in the lane, the race will be in the hands of the 34 of Ewan Baker. Has teammate Matthew Pluck for shotgun this time in P2. We'll see here, off of the final turn, Ewan Baker will come and puts the hammer down nice and early there. That's a nice clean start indeed for the man in the front of the field. We go green, lap 5. Pardon me, lap 6. Going to be on the board here as we get this race back underway.
Nice clean start. Obviously a little bit of a smaller field now that we've had a couple of drivers, unfortunately, out of the race. We won't see Lindsay Hobbs back by the looks of it. His car is pretty beaten up. I mean, he doesn't have a mechanical black flag, but obviously that car did not behave very well when he got back to the pits. And Hayden Kirk, of course, is out of the race with that damage. It's part of the V8SCOPS rulebook. You are forced to request a tow back to the pit lane. You are out, as if in real life you would be out of the race. So Baker, very good launch. Mulqueen didn't get away at the restart anywhere near as good as I may have thought he would have.
It is true. The Elantras. Oh, Baker deep down the road. It's going to open the door to Matthew Pluck and Damon Mulqueen to get on through. And Ben Faulkner might be half a chance too with some momentum from way back when. They're going to be side by side for third into the penultimate corner, and Baker launches it over the curbs to hang on to that spot here, but now going to be very vulnerable, I think, to a good run if possible from that 0.42 machine as they come down the front straightaway there. And that is a real kicker there for Baker. Just having a look to see if I can spot how he's feeling about that one. The answer is not really seeing much there.
There's no emotion on his face at all, is there?
Yeah, I mean, we do only have half a facial expression to work with.
It's enough.
But it is enough, generally speaking. You're not wrong, as they work their way up through the opening turns once again.
I can tell you
here.
who's stressed. This man right here. He looks so stressed. Matthew Pluck is he's got a bit of concern on his face about how this is going. His eyes have stopped blinking at anywhere near the ferocity as they were 10 minutes ago. A little bit of sweat starting to appear. He's starting to feel it now that he's got in the lead.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And, it's going to be his turn to go deep at Dandenong Road, much like his teammate did a lap prior. He keeps on the road, though, but it's going to be side by side for the lead here with Damon Mulqueen eyeing up that front position once again. Not going to make it work, though, so that compromises the line for both of them into that turn, and they will head on out of the corner there as we've actually lost a couple of drivers there in rapid succession.
Yeah, Thomas Riley's out of the race, unfortunately. He's had something happen. He pulled into the pits and he's decided to retire the car. So, unfortunate night for Riley.
Out of the ears as we watch your front two at it here through turns 1, then 2 and 3. And this time they're all over the curb. Someone off in the dirt. I think that was Isaac Edwards making a small adventure. Yes, it was. Edwards now really struggling with the handling and balance of the number 15 machine. I think he too has just a little bit of damage on board that is now upsetting his car as it's a top 5 breakaway. And in fact, we are now down to 6 cars remaining in this race, unfortunately, but this could easily be a good chance for any one of these 5 here in shot to still win as to Dandenong we come, and deep from Puck forces Mulqueen to absolutely launch, stomp on the anchors because there was no way through. He was too far back. It also stalls up Ewan Baker for Ben Faulkner to have another go at that third place, which will then open the doors to Simon Mazzomo to maximise the exit here and have a crack down at turn number 1 here, Jay. It is all kinds of on here with these drivers. It all starts with the race leader and Matthew Pluck at the front of the group.
Matthew Pluck's error has now allowed the 4th and 5th place cars to go side by side down the front straight. The exact opposite corner of the circuit has brought about a positional change for 4th and 5th because the leader went too deep. Incredible how this racetrack ebbs and flows. These cars always bring on really close racing. This has been an incredible battle pack. Faulkner's going to feel very hard done by because he was so close to being able to get past Ewan Baker, but then was forced on the wrong side of the road, and he's lost all that time, all that ground, and that position. Mulqueen's coming again. Will Pluck make a 3rd mistake 3 in a row?
Here we go to the inside. We'll go Mulqueen for turn 6 as the road narrows up here at the back end of Sandown. Side by side this time, they don't make contact between the top 2. Mulqueen takes discretion as the option here and backs out to go single file by the time we get down to turn number 9. So this is the stuff we want to see when it comes to full commitment and heads up driving at the front of the group here. And you can see Mulqueen all over the bumper through the penultimate turns here on Matthew Pluck, but it allows Baker back in with a shot. And they've actually, again, small pocket there in between Baker in 3rd, Mazzomo in 4th. They're all still covered by 1.5 seconds to top 5 as they head down the front stretch to get this second half of the race, complete the first half of the race, I should say. This is lap 10 of 20 that we are now on.
Top 5 in the 7. Well, now we've got 7 cars. Lizzie Hobbs has brought it back out after 8.5 minutes in the pits. But of the 7 cars still out on track, 6 on the lead lap, 5 in the lead car battle. That's incredible how tight this field is. We're halfway through the race. Looking at the time certain clock, we do have a time certain finish after 35 minutes. Unless we get probably 2 more safety cars, we're nowhere near it. So we're going to go absolute full throttle all the way to the end.
And that's what we like to see here in the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series. And here comes Ewan Baker to the inside at Dandenong Road. Mulqueen sees it coming, gives the space, but critically is able to put the foot down and get ahead again of the 34. What it does do, of course, is give Matthew Pluck a little bit less pressure to worry about here, as Mulqueen now has to maybe think a little defensive. But again, just like we saw in race 1, better mid-speed between corners for Baker, but better exit traction and acceleration for Mulqueen in the 42 machine. He's going back after your race leader, just like that.
I don't know if you saw it out of the corner of your eye, but I definitely saw it out of the corner of mine. When that mistake happened and there was the side-by-side, Matthew Pluck had the biggest smile on his face I've seen any driver in any race at the midway point I've seen ever. So he knew that was important. Mazzomo off the circuit, keep it out of the fence. No, he's in the wall. How much damage is there to the car? It looks like he might have got away with that. Just tyres.
Yep, so unfortunately, we are now down to 4 at the front of this field here, as Mulqueen is basically invisible from that angle. There is the 42 Smith & Son Synergy Sim Racing Hyundai Elantra as they come down the hill through turn 6, 7, 8, and 9 once again here on lap number 11. This time by everyone looking a bit more orderly at the front of the field, and in the proceedings have dropped. Well, actually, Ben Faulkner, pardon me, was in behind Simon Mazzomo, so he's been dropped by virtue of having to avoid what happened to Mazzomo there on the start of the lap. I just want you to go see how that's unfolded real quick personally there. As a up over the curb at 2, up over the curb at 3, runs wide in the grass on the brakes. That's not where you want to be for sure. So unfortunately, the 954 is now on his own little island there with the Lindsay Hobbs for company once more, as Pluck is loose through turn 1. Mulqueen really keeping the pressure on here, but turn 1's not the place he can make a move at this point, Joe.
Ben Faulkner is the one that's interesting me in this group. He's the one that's there ready to pounce. He's far enough back, like we said before, when Pluck was sitting back watching, he was far enough back that if there was an error ahead, he can capitalize on it, but close enough to still get the draft and still get an advantage. He has lost a little bit of ground at the moment, but he's still right there, isn't he? He's in contention and could pull some sort of miracle off. Here comes Mulqueen around the outside. That's not going to work.
Outside is suicide, especially in a front-wheel drive car that's reliant on how much grip you can spare to the tyres for cornering. When you're busy braking and then wanting to put some more power back in between the turns, there's not a lot to go around on that front axles. All 3 of these front drivers nose to tail to the point of rubbing bumpers and really checking each other up through those turns. I'm just wondering, is Matthew Pluck really now starting to play almost kind of wingman in reverse here and get Baker a chance to really set up something on Mulqueen with being ultra defensive whilst mostly being on the racing line? The exception is things like here where he's actually having to go inside. Mulqueen's going to keep some overlap here. He might just force the issue here at turn 2 of all places, Jay. As we come into the corner, they're going to go side-by-side bump. Puts Mulqueen offline. Baker up the inside is going to take the place surely here at turn 4. He will indeed, and look who's back in the picture once again.
Faulkner was out of it coming through the second last corner. It was so sideways, lost so much ground, and he's back into it. I was about to say too that high risk, high reward play if Pluck's playing wingman rear gunner from the front, but it paid off for now. But big but here, it could still be disastrous for these two, because we've seen how fast Mulqueen's been. I'll tell you what, Ben Faulkner has been as fast as I've seen him all season long in this race. He has been doing a brilliant job in this one.
See his personal best on the previous lap, and that puts his personal best as
Even
actually
with that slide.
Yeah, 15.266, and as a result, Jay, he's actually only slower than Baker and Mulqueen. He actually has a better PB than your current race leader by almost 1/10 of a second as they come across the line. As more trouble for Isaac Edwards all by himself when we last checked in with him here. And he's now picked up a mechanical black flag for his troubles as Baker up the inside at turn 1, potentially on his teammate for the lead. Mulqueen's going to go again for the inside at turn 2, this time for second place. This didn't work once. Surely it's not going to work twice. No, it won't. Bit of contact between the 34 and the 42. Faulkner, though, not able to capitalise this time round. As, wow, we're going to go to a virtual racing school replay, and I believe we're going to check in on Isaac Edwards, are we not?
Yeah, we're just going to check and see exactly how this has played out. Because there's not going to be any overtakes this time, you would think, at the front of the field. So let's get it in while we can. Big thanks, of course, to Virtual Racing School for their support of us here at SimSpeed. Isaac Edwards has decided Tokyo Drift is the option, and there's why he got a mechanical black flag. That's definitely front suspension, big damage.
That's his safety car shunt, only amplified to full racing speeds, unfortunately.
Yeah, instead of 90% throttle, he was at 100.
Yeah, somehow that car snapping loose badly into turn 6 is, oh, Lindsay Hobbs.
Oh, we're going to see another. We're going to see another safety car. He is not able to get away.
Yeah, that car is parked. It's off the track, technically speaking, but that's in a position where I'd be wagering a safety car would be worthwhile, as we've got 6 laps to go as your lead is coming through turn 1. What do race control do here with a car stricken still out on the circuit? No call just yet here. We'll wait to see. And there it is. The safety car boards and flags are coming out once again here in this second of the 2-litre Tourer races from Sandown, as we go to the next of our Virtual Racing School replays to see how Lindsay Hobbs has done it here into turn number 6.
It's a strange one here. This is almost like the car has broken and he's gone straight ahead rather than turning the corner. Yeah, it just hasn't turned on him. That's a heavy impact. Yeah, that wasn't what I was expecting to see.
Yeah, holy wobbles and a half there. Unfortunately, I didn't quite catch it in detail, so I'm going to have a look at it again myself real quickly here and just see if I can understand. Yeah, just the back and the foot. Yeah, just the rear goes.
Going on with the car, isn't there? It's not a normal incident.
Yeah, the rear not responding there under brakes initially. So it goes once, he corrects, but that causes another snap back in when he tries to actually turn it in for the corner as required. And, well, it just completely unfolds on him there. As
part of that issue was, of course, the car was still damaged from that earlier incident, so may have been trying to push it 100%. The car didn't like it because it was still damaged. That resulted in him in the fence.
All right. Well, Mizomo gets a second chance at this one, Jay. So we get all 5 of our lead lap drivers back in this one. And we'll see here how many laps we get racing. Safety car comes in end of lap 17, 3-lap dash, probably odds
I reckon
on.
That's what we're looking at. I definitely don't like it to leave it with or finish the race on a safety car. So we're definitely going to go green again. It's whether we have 2, 3, or 4 laps. Definitely won't be 4 because we are not going green this time. So it'll be green next lap, you would guess. That'll give us a 3-lap dash between 5 runners at the end of this 20-lap race.
Well, it is game on.
Stricken car just off to the left of screen right here. And so cool to see the... As much as it's unfortunate to see the damage, I love watching these cars crash with the new damage model in iRacing. See the front splitter rip off the front of the car, and we've seen wheels damaged and tires popped and suspension hurt. We saw Hayden Kirk's front right-hand wheel in that incident lap 1, race 1. Saw how damaged that front tire was and front wheel was. You could see why he got the mechanical black flag, and you can tell why there that Hobbs had the mechanical black flag as well. You can also see why Isaac Edwards got it from his incident too. So it's, as much criticism as we've seen from that sort of thing over the years, it's definitely shows it off very, very well in these cars.
Your will indeed. Confirmation from race control. We will get a 3-lap race to the end here, presumably staying green where possible. And all 5 drivers who are still in this one are going to be here to witness it. So, I mean, one final formation here as they make their way around turn number 1. And
the good thing for us is all 5 of these drivers could legitimately win this race.
They certainly could. That's, I mean, my odds would probably be on your top 3 in particular, but the way they're going at it, and some of the sends we've seen from Ewan Baker could easily check the field if Matthew Pluck, the tyres cool down too much. That may just cause some issues there, as Henry King will have the Logitech G Porsche Cayman GT4 pull away now here at turn 5. That will give Pluck some options here when it comes to when he restarts this one, because should get back to the pit lane, I would think, by about the time the field gets down in between turns 9 and 10, which 10 must be a little kink on the straightaway there, so that's actually a bit annoying. But there's corner numbering in Australia for you. It's not perfect.
When does he go? I think he's going to wait as long as he can to actually go. I think he'll wait until probably the midway point through 11 and 12, but safety car's in the lane now, isn't it? So he could go at any point from here. I don't think you do. Is accelerating a little bit. So technically, is that accelerating? No, he's saying it around 90 kilometers an hour.
Just edge the pace up ever so slightly.
Just slightly,
actually.
Here we go.
Going, and you're on the brakes into the final turn. We go back green, and indeed time it for the best exit he can get there off of turn number 12. 3 laps of racing remain here in the 2-litre Tourers. There are your 5 drivers who can win this race, all lined up in a row as we go on board with the man in P2, Ewan Baker, at 34. The surviving Honda TCR is deep on the brakes indeed, but he still gets it pulled up here at turn 1. Not going to get up the inside for turn 2, though, this time by at least, as they try and get themselves back into a rhythm here, and there's not long to sort this out.
2.5 laps to go, only about 8 kilometers of racing left in this one. Who is going to win the last race of the night for the 2-litre Tourers? Ewan Baker looks the most likely based on pace, but can he get through? It's not easy to overtake at this circuit. It's so simple on paper, but that is much more difficult out on track. Of course, the different makes of cars definitely make it a little bit more difficult as well, because they all have different strengths and weaknesses, as we've seen. 2 more laps to go. I don't know if Pluck can do it. Mole Queen doesn't look like he's got enough left in the car. Could we see Faulkner and Mazzomo maybe steal something if they've saved a little bit of tyre in these cars? I don't think they have either. So Pluck, it's definitely his race to lose right now.
I would say don't count out Damon Mulqueen just yet. He was very good at the bottom of the S's into Dandenong Road, and I think that was all about setting off of turn number 4 here. He might have little glory, or are they going to work together? That's working together right there. He is on the bumper, pushing the 34 into turn 6. Nothing too shocking about that one there, and good to see us down into the hill we come. There's nowhere to go for Mulqueen. Just checks the field up a fraction there, I think does Pluck as well. So certainly now full rear gunner operations are strapped in with the 51. Can Mulqueen get the spot as into the last couple of corners we come? White flag in the hands of Barney this time by. And we've got 3 kilometers of racing left here. Ewan Baker, this is now his race to lose at the front of the field.
100% right. He's got to hold on. And it's looking good at the moment. Pluck didn't get a great exit out of the last corner. And here comes Mulqueen. He's going to have to pull off a miracle to get 2 spots in this lap. But if anyone can do it, we've seen all season long that Damon Mulqueen can do some miracle things in this car. Gonna find it very difficult to get it done through here now, though, because he could not get it done before they get into turn 2. In the background, you also saw Mazzomo had a little error. He's out of the fight now. He'll just try and hold on for 5th. Or will hold on for 5th. He might steal a spot at the end. If something goes amiss here, Ewan Baker's got to absolutely pull this up perfectly. Matthew Pluck now definitely is acting as a rear gunner. No questions about it.
All right, here we go. Mulqueen checks the nose inside for 6. Backs out, not going to get there in time. Can he fire it down the inside? No, he's nowhere near close enough down the hill. He closes late under brakes, but that's not going to help here. One final braking opportunity here at turn number 11 coming up for Mulqueen to make it a 2nd place finish, but it's not to be, I don't think. Through the last couple of turns we go, and was denied in race number 1 was Ewan Baker, but he gets through here in race number 2. He will get a race win to his name here at Sandown for the 2-litre Tourers tonight. Pluck hangs on to P2. Mulqueen in 3rd. Faulkner and Mazzomo to round out your finishes here in this one. And well-deserved bit of headlight flashing, I would suggest there, from Ewan Baker. As that will wrap up the 2-litre Tourers racing action. Your results on screen there with our 10 drivers, well, 9 of them, I should say, because unfortunately for Hayden Kirk and Shane Best, race control in the Henry King and the Porsche Cayman GT4 does technically show up as ahead of them tonight, unfortunately.
You
there.
know you haven't
But
had a good night when the safety car beats you home on the timing, on the results screen.
yes, indeed, that is true. But Baker from Pluck, from Mulqueen, then Faulkner and Mazzomo to round out our finishes there. Isaac Edwards, the last of the retirees, there is scored P6. Hobbs, P7. Thomas Riley, P8. Hayden Kirk, P10. And Shane Best not taking the start of race number 2 is scored 11th for that one there. Well, that'll just about end our coverage of the 2-litre Tourers tonight as part of the racing here for the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series action from Sandown International Motor Raceway. 15th of 16 events for this series this year. And, well, what it does mean is, barring an interview from one of the drivers tonight, we might just take a quick break here, Jay, and get ourselves geared up for the next of our racing here tonight. The V8s coming your way in just a couple of minutes' time.
World of Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
Racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson! Anderson's up top now!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome back to the continued coverage of the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series action here to kick off the goodness, we're getting it all kinds of wrong tonight. It's the 13th round of racing comes Sunday night for the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS Championship, but it's the, well, actually that doesn't quite make sense, but either way. Is there there's round 4, there's 14 rounds, or will be the 14th round of racing come Sunday, because there's 15 rounds in the season. We're up to the 15th week end of racing for the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series action, though. Trust the graphic, not my dumb brain sometimes, as we're getting ready for the V8s here for their 2 races tonight. But before we do get to that, a chance to chat to one of our drivers from the 2-litre Tourers. We've got Damon Mulqueen with us here now. And, well, Damon, race win there in the first one tonight, ahead of the Kiwi sim racing duo of Matthew Pluck and Ewan Baker there tonight. But they certainly made you work for it all the way there in that first race.
Yeah, they did. It's good. Looks like the track the way it is, it's pretty much a draft fest down the 2 big straights. So kind of difficult to break the draft. And race 1, I ended up getting a slowdown. Just committed a bit too early, and the tyres weren't up to it yet. But you know, that's just part of the racing deal in these things. Sometimes you feel like you've got the tyre temp there, but because of the straights, you don't.
Yeah, indeed. How was the tyre temp like in terms of just getting it back up to temp? Of course, we not only had obviously both race starts to keep in mind, but the 2 safety cars there in race 2 as well. Were you how much were you struggling? Did it feel like you were struggling in that second race with tyre reheating and getting it back up to pace? Was that an issue for you at all, and compared to the others around you, it felt like? And if so, roughly how much, if possible?
I don't really think there was too much of a difference when it came to start a race 2. I just got on the gas a bit too hard in a couple of spots and dropped a bit of time, which put me under fire from, I believe it was either Ewan or Matt. Can't remember which ones. It was a bit crazy in that second race. But yeah, those were just me pushing too hard too early, and especially coming into turn 1 on lap 2, I think it was, that just got on the brakes a bit too hard, and she don't like it. So yeah, no, it was about standard tyre deal for these things. They take about 3 or 4 laps to properly come up. But yeah, just overcommitted, and that's all on me. So no one to blame there but myself. But you know, it was good to have a good battle with both the Kiwi sim racing boys tonight. Always love battling those guys, whether it's, you know, Ewan, Matt or Carl or whoever else ends up being around there. We all put on great racing together, and I'm pretty sure that's what we all want to see as much as we want to win.
Indeed, makes for great viewing for us, both in the for us in the comms box. It certainly looks good. I sure hope it looks good for those watching along with us on the live stream, be it, or if it's afterwards via the YouTube channel or elsewhere where this stream may live across SimSpeed's social channels. Well, 2 more races left at the season finale at Road America, and that's going to be just another 3 weeks from now before we wrap things up for not only the Logitech G V8SCOPS supports, but therefore V8SCOPS as a whole for 2022. Thoughts on what that might bring for you there, and that combination in the TCR cars with a track like that, which is similar power and slipstream demand as perhaps here at Sandown, but a little bit more cornering work required in a few areas?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be another draft fest, so breaking the toe is going to be crucial if it's even possible. So I'm basically expecting some pretty close racing, and we're going to have to tune up the Hyundai there a wee bit to get it on par with the braking performance of that Honda, because that Honda has got some stellar braking performance when you get it right on the money. So it's going to be a bit of tinkering between now and then, and hopefully we can come away with a podium in the championship after missing a couple of rounds at the start of the season.
Yeah, it will indeed. Well, thank you for chatting with us, Damon. Before we let you go, anyone you'd like to shout out and thank for the results tonight?
Basically, just the whole crew at Synergy Sim Racing. They've been giving me absolute top-notch Hyundai Elantra TCRs there to race in this series, and I've been thoroughly enjoying the racing for the guys in the series. So got to also thank our sponsors. They all know who they are because we've got a lot of them. So it's a bit hard to run through them all without missing somebody. And then to, Logitech for sponsoring the series, to the crew at Oceanic Sim Racing for hosting these events and putting all the work in behind the scenes, as well as the other crew that do that as well, and to you guys for chucking on the broadcast.
Oh, thank you very much, Damon, there for joining us tonight, and the words as well. Look forward to seeing you out on track in 3 weeks' time for the season finale.
Cheers, guys.
Well, with that all said and done, Jay, we can now turn eyes forward to the V8s, which are going to come up next. And, well, Darren Mulqueen, a race win in P3, that will put him closer to Dylan Jordan. In fact, he'll actually leapfrog Dylan Jordan entirely, and he might even jump past, let's see here, Carl Sampson. He might jump past Carl Sampson as well and be up into P2 tonight. Matthew Pluck, though, out in front in the championship, will hold the lead going into the final round of the 2-litre Tourers, as I said, at Road America, when everything wraps up for this year in 3 weeks' time. But, as I said, turn our eyes forward to the V8s, because here's the standings for you all as they stand coming into tonight's racing for these guys as well. It's been the Team Jinx Shifters show up the front of the field, and it still is that case. The number 1 of Aaron Gilbert leads the number 2 of Henry King there, and just keeping it within 100 points at this stage, Jay. But, well, looking at how things are going in the session tonight, that might change. Aaron Gilbert continually on a tear in these cars compared to his teammate Henry King. The middle finger racing duo of Daniel Stevens and Gavin Cox actually splitting the HJR Jinx Shifters duo at the moment on practice times. They're somewhat in the fight mathematically, but, well, there's only 450 points up for grabs per round as well, so chances for Gavin Cox to mathematically stay in contention are running out fast here.
How cool is it, though? Positions 1, 2, 3 in the championship. The car's 1, 2, 3 in the championship. So, are they position numbers or car numbers? So it's been an enjoyable season the whole way through too, hasn't it? I mean, we've seen plenty of close racing, plenty of close battles. It's seen all sorts of winners. I've seen James Anderson up the front. Of course, he's been unable to finish the rest of the championship due to other issues. But Gilbert, King, Stevens, Cox have all put on really good shows throughout and seen some great battles in the midfield as well. So I think tonight's going to be a really, really interesting fight. I'm looking forward to seeing how this race goes. I mean, we've seen in the real world with these cars that the racing can be incredible and often is incredible at this track. So as long as some people don't get too ambitious, we're going to see some very, very interesting battles. The format up on screen at the moment is also very interesting. 26 laps for both races, 45 minutes if we do need safety cars and the like. But race 2, full grid inversion plus compulsory pit stop for 2 tyres. So the strategy gains coming from the reverse grid will make it very, very interesting.
It will indeed. We welcome back this 80k per what's the name? The 80-80 split sprint format of sorts. So the wording's a little bit nebulous there, but that is what it is. And indeed, haven't seen this reverse grid format for some time in the V8s. You would actually have to go all the way back. Get this, Jay.
Is it Mossball?
Well, for this format, not quite. We last saw it at Sebring for these cars in the V8s. But
that was a while ago.
The last time we saw it at all was at Donington for the 2-litre Tourers.
Okay. Which, from memory, that was some amazing racing in those races there at Donington. So this format has been one of my favourites that we've run in V8SCOPS Supports, and we'll no doubt see some great battles. We've got 18 cars by the looks of it as well, so fairly strong field in this one. 4 minutes until qualifying begins, 10-minute qualifying session for the drivers. With the pace that the 2-litre Tourer races went at. We actually ended up with a little bit of extra time from what we would have expected before we got into this race. So I think it's appropriate we have another look at this amazing place on the track map.
Indeed, we will zoom down from the satellite view of Google Earth, bring it down to at least southeast Australia here with various capital cities and notable racing circuits there on screen, and then bring it on in down to the regional view, down past the Greater Melbourne view there, and all the way in to the Sandown Racecourse, and, well, more importantly for us, the International Motor Raceway round the outside of it here, with Dandenong Road, Princess Highway just up there at the top of your screen, turn number 9. That, as we said earlier, 3.1 kilometers of racetrack here tonight. 2 long straights, handful of turns, and a lot of high curbs in between all those corners that you have to negotiate here tonight. And now we get to
do a little bit more track trivia. I mean,
sure,
I gave you a little bit before.
Let's go with some more track trivia.
All right. So obviously, I said before, it was the host of the very, very first car race in Australia. This location wasn't this layout, wasn't this circuit, but it was at Sandown, or within the Sandown area, the area of the circuit. So the track opened in 1962, but in the early to mid 80s, they were looking at bringing a big event to Sandown, which they did get when they brought the international, I think it was the International Sports Car Series, which is basically the Le Mans series that we know now. But the original plan before they got that was to try and host Formula One at this circuit. What happened instead was the Victorian government said, no, we are not supporting that. The South Australian government said, yes, we will support that. 1985, guess where Formula One went? Went to Adelaide. 1984, Sandown was resulted in hosting the I'm pretty sure it was the Le Mans series, I'm not 100% sure on it, which brought about that absolutely awful addition to the circuit, which you can see remnants of at turn 6 and turn 9, that the drivers absolutely hated. Bring on 1997, 98, track officially closed and then fully bulldozed in the early 2000s.
Well, there you go. I will admit, having seen a tiny bit of historic footage from that World Sports Car configuration.
World Sports Car, that's right.
I think that's what it's called. Look, don't quote me on that. I'm not exactly a historic racing buff by any stretch of the means. I think it was an old YouTube video of, I think, Johnny Dumfries and the Porsche. Would it have been like a 962C potentially? It was a Group C era potentially at that time.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
And just the sound of physical exertion to the point of pain that man was putting into his car, and in particular, just through all the turns, was utterly unbelievable. I actually kind of wish we had a version of it somewhere on a simulator and to a standard that we'd consider somewhat accurate, I'd have to say, because even though, yes, people don't like it, and okay, fair enough, it definitely was a bit of a, when I think, what do I know of it, a bit of a dinky back and forth hairpins, narrow, twisty.
It didn't add anything other than distance, really, is what it did. It didn't fit the flow of the rest of the track.
Certainly padding to try and improve the lap length, fair enough. But yeah, obviously these days, it's a bit hard to do that with the race course for horses on the inside. And it does, though, preserve the flow down the hill from turn 6 to turn number 9 as well, which is certainly quite critical for this track indeed. Timer in the top left of the screen is the amount of seconds remaining in the practice session before we'll get ourselves to the 10-minute qualifying run for tonight's races here in the V8. So not too far away now for all of the action to begin there. Indeed, checkered flag will fly, and it still is the number 1 leading the 555, actually, leading the number 3. So Aaron Gilbert from Gavin Cox from Daniel Stevens in your pre-race practice. But we'll see if those times there tonight were what is going to be reflective of qualifying. You'd think so, but we'll wait and have to see if anyone can upset that, as the green flag will fly here in qualifying as drivers get themselves out here onto the circuit. Of course, the hard cutoff once again for the V8s here tonight will be important. Make sure that these drivers get their line done. or get the lap done, or get the lap started and finished, and not get cut off like we saw there for Simon Mazzomo in the 2-litre Tourers earlier.
Yeah, he missed it by a second, didn't he? Just didn't quite time it perfectly. Fairly quick out lap as well, but of course you want to cycle the tyre through, phase the tyre through quite nicely. You don't want to put too much pressure on the tyre too early. Tyres do drop off a little bit. Of course, the other parts of that as well, we're talking about timing a run properly. No escape rule, as always, in effect in all V8SCOPS qualifying sessions. It means that you must drive it back into the pit lane before you can change the tyres. You cannot press the magic escape button, take yourself back to the pits that way. You must do it by driving yourself back to the pits.
Yeah, and that, of course, will be important.
Means you get one less run, essentially.
Indeed, yeah. You will burn up that time with every in-lap you have to do here. As we're going to check out Daniel Stevens, the number 3 machine here, bring it onto the front stretch with this lovely zoom feed shot that he gives us each and every time he's racing with us here on a Sim Speed broadcast. So turn 1 will come. Brings down from 6th back to 3rd gear. Try and get that car rotated. And actually looking nice and tidy here for his first lap. We'll see what the seconds look like as we stay on board here with the number 3 machine.
Pretty smooth on the wheel, isn't he? He's, one thing I've always noticed about Dan is he does have quite smooth control with the wheel. Hello, Dan. He always has this listing, and you can see his phone sitting there just next to the stream deck he's got on his left. That actually has us up on YouTube right at that point. So we always know that Dan's watching while he's driving. I don't know if that helps or hinders him, but this lap at the moment, not looking too bad. Giving us the thumbs up because he's finally hearing us talking about him. This lap, not too bad. So this should put him up towards the pointy end. Of course, time's only just starting to come in, but this does look like a pretty competitive time in comparison to what we've seen in the practice session.
Going to be a 1:07.774 for the number 3 machine. It's good enough for provisional P number 2 at this point in time. We get to see our Jinx Shifters duo of Aaron Gilbert and Henry King put a time down just yet, but here comes Aaron Gilbert. Speaking of, to the line Aaron will come, and it's actually not going to be fast enough for P1 just yet. Henry King, though, will go to the top of the timing charts. Aaron Gilbert's currently stuck down in P7 on a 1:08.0 in with a very big bunch of drivers. Realistically starts with the guys in second on down. Has trouble there for Nathan Tregarthen. As I'm also seeing Lindsay Colps is parked up down at Dandenong Road. We're going to go to our first virtual racing school replay for the V8s tonight to see how this happened here. So that's a lot of steering lock into turn 4 here, Jay. Ay, caramba. And then catch it when you can. Does catch it. That will have ruined any life.
He had a very, very good first sector. So that's probably hurt any chance. Henry King's going for a second run. We don't often see too many second runs in the V8, but King's doing it, and very, very quick through the mid section of the lap. Fastest we've seen in the session so far. So even though his tyres have had a hit, gone for a second lap. Nah, he's pulling it into the pit, so he's fooled us a little. It's still a very, very nice lap. Gavin Cox is on another good lap as well, as Aaron Gilbert does get a lap in. Goes to P2.
All right, well, nothing in it between the Jinx Shifters duo. Just at the moment, the number 2 leads the number 1. Hayden Johnson has improved to be within 2/10 of your provisional pole time in that 333 machine. Puts him up into P3. Then you've got Tim Nicol, Daniel Stevens, and Gavin Cox rounding out your top 6. So some drivers here tonight looking like they've got the goods in qualifying at the moment here, disrupting the guys who are at the front of the championship fight and might be in with a chance. Our new drivers here tonight, Dylan Gray in the number 6 Ford Falcon FG. That's a little wide of the line down the hill, though. He will press on, it seems. Actually, now
he's on an out lap.
That would make sense. No, I don't think so, because he's apparently got the fastest second sector just then. Okay. And he's certainly committed into turn 11 and 12 there. A little bit much, but he's going to finish it off anyways. We will indeed. Looking to improve on a 1:07.904.
That's 1:32, so that is an out lap.
Right, well, there you go. That will...
I'll win this battle.
All right, fine. I've been bamboozled by the fact that purple showed up, and I wouldn't expect you to be doing purples on an outlap in that case, but apparently consider me sufficiently fooled as we check in with Triple Eight of Thomas Riley, who's currently down in 14th place.
He'll be wanting a bit more luck than he's had in previous races.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Unfortunately, had a crack at the 2 Litre Tourer there tonight. Did not
want to forget
go...
that.
He may want to forget that is true. It's certainly an unfavourable set of events for him. We'll bring the car round here. Can he improve on a 108.888? Yep, he can. Moves to 108.5, so gets a couple of spots there to jump to P number 13 in this part of the session with, well, just enough time. No, actually, no, pardon me. That's going to be it pretty much for him because...
Unless he goes on those tyres again, I don't think he'll get back out, will he?
You're correct. The only way he gets time to do another run is if he backs off enough to somehow preserve them, if they've got anything left in them. Troy Sipple, unfortunately, is going to have to abandon that run, but he does have time to come in here, get a new set of tyres on the car, and go again.
He was on for a very good lap then too. Would have been a personal best.
So here's Sipple will find his pit garage there towards the end of the lane. Pull straight on in. Well, he actually can reset once he's in the box. Drivers do have that option. They don't have to take standard service per se. We're not scrutinising it that deeply, as it were. But we'll see what he does in due course.
Look, I am, but you might not be.
Okay, fine.
I'm screwed. No, I'm not really. Good lap from Stephen Kennedy. Personal best there. Goes in the 10th position. Oh, can you tell I'm a little delirious tonight? It's been a long day.
Oh, we're in high spirits.
Apparently, we've got purple first sector.
Yeah, well, that's no massive shocker, I guess. Let's see here what sector 2 looks like.
No shock that he's got a purple, but I must say it's a shock the gap that I'm seeing to everyone else's personal best time in that first sector. About 2.5 tenths quicker than everyone else.
Right then, okay. Well, I can't see that the PB data. Maybe I should.
Henry King's personal best is a 20.9. He did a 20.7. Exactly the same middle split as he did on his best lap. This could be about 1.5 tenths quicker than his personal best, which is a 7.3 to 7.2 personal best. P1.
Yeah, not as big of a gap as you might think. He's got just enough time, if the car's got anything left in it here, to do a cool down lap or just go again. If that happens, Henry King has actually decided to go into the lawn mowing business between turns 1 and 3 there, but
Henry King's
worry
mowing
about him another time here because Lance Childs looks to be on a lap here in the number 33 Frog Leap Juice Racing Commodore.
Lance Childs is the only driver that is on his first attempted lap. Just hearing too, Nathan Tregarthen. We saw him, there was a car off the inside of turn 1. When we had that outside shot at the exit of turn 1 for Childs, we saw there was a car off there. That's Nathan Tregarthen. He's stuck in the wall. So he's requested a tow from race control, which will be granted. That'll be his session done. Also, Gavin Cox also just did a personal best on his 3rd lap on these tyres. So doesn't mean that you haven't got pace in it, even though you've already run the tyres out.
Well, that's interesting. There's a big lock up into turn 11 there for Childs, who's not set any pardon me, he has set a personal best in the middle of the lap here, Jay.
Yep.
Looks to try and improve on a 107.86. He will find a spot there to go to a 107.804 there. So up to P8, that'll be the best he can do in this session. Colin Bruns currently out there. 2 personal bests indeed, looking to improve on a 108.7. Will he get to the line? Actually, this will be. Actually, no, he will just.
Oh, if he doesn't ruin the lap, he will. And he has.
Fortunately for Colin Bruns,
that's not commentator's curse. He was already gone before I said it.
Well, take what you can. Then
I'm claiming it as not.
Oh, there was a car on track at the kink that counts as turn 13. Who was the lucky?
I think it was Lindsay Hobbs potentially.
Daniel Stevens.
Okay. He wasn't on
the road.
Improvement by the looks of it anyway, so
okay.
Wow, that was an interesting session. Gilbert gets pole. We're not surprised by that, but the times from about third, fourth on back are very, very tight. So King and Gilbert 1 and 2 in cars 1 and 2. Hayden Johnson in third position. Tim Nicol fourth. And Gavin Cox and Daniel Stevens 5th and 6th. Dylan Gray only half a tenth behind. Lance Childs half a tenth behind that. Mason 6,000ths of a second behind that. Half a tenth for Stephen Kennedy next. Got a couple of tenths back to Stead Miller. A couple of tenths back to Crosby. And then it gets tied again. Tregarthen only a couple of hundredths behind. Thomas Riley only a couple of, a tenth behind. Runs a tenth and a bit behind. Green half a tenth behind. Then we've got Sipple and Hobbs. It's incredibly tight the whole way through the field.
Sure is indeed. That only means we've got ourselves what should be a great bit of racing to come your way. 2 races, 26 laps apiece. And as you said, that reverse grid race too. Compulsory pit stop for at least 2 tyres. Make it 4 because that's the way the tyre system works here in these cars. And now just got to wait for the drivers to make their way to the grid. Manual safety car, Porsche Cayman GT4, 2 of them tonight in this server will mean that we will wait out the rest of the timer. So another 20 seconds till we go green here tonight. We're also missing Hayden Johnson in the 333. He has not yet taken to the grid. He will make it there just now with 8 seconds to spare.
You ask and he will arrive. It's almost like you've summoned him. Here we go.
All right, 18 drivers on the grid for the V8s here at Sandown. The revs are up for this race, and we go green here, and it's going to be a pretty even run off the front stretch, but it looks like Henry King might just get the nose ahead into turn 1. He will, but now the game is on. Oh no, trouble back in the field. Lance Childs around on the outside. We've got cars narrow into turn 1. Cars are around all the way through the mid-pack here, Jay. It's all kinds of bedlam here on the opening lap.
Yeah, we've got Nicol, who's lost a heap of ground. We've got Dylan Gray, lost a heap of ground there too. And we've got Stead Miller around. He was in 5th position.
This is utter chaos.
Tell you what, Stephen Kennedy's been smart by starting in the pits. Or no, he was the one that was stalled at the start, wasn't he? So,
well, I didn't even know he was stalled. I didn't even know what the stall was. The Stead Miller's car is not going anywhere. It has not got a mechanical black flag yet, but
there we go. I think he stalled it.
Just stalled out for a while there. Does indeed get the motor refired as your leaders head down the turns 11 and 12. Include lap number 1, but my word, that was a lot of action all over the field, trying to pick that one apart and figure out what happened there.
Rather than going cross country.
Did he now? Well, that certainly makes
that was very wide at the exit of the final corner there. Gilbert and King have taken off, but this battle for third is heated. And I tell you what, have a look at this battle behind, side by side, for all of these guys. Anthony Green, there's a corner back there.
And Tregarthen's doing some more lawn mowing across to the inside of turns 2 and 3. In the 035, we'll slip in behind Gavin Cox and Darren Crosby in the 66 M1 Racing Falcon there. So yeah, it is absolute. It's just everyone, everywhere, all at the same time.
What a lap 1. So he starts in 13th position, gets himself up into 5th, the second last corner on the first lap, and he's now back into 9th and losing even more ground.
Slow down penalty due to cutting the inside of turns 3. And he's got to get off the line. Tim Nicol runs into the back of him there. He's still trying to serve it. Actually, he's finally served it now as Dylan Gray and Lindsay Hobbs make their way by. Anthony Green's got to slow down from, I think, the turn 1 excursion. But he's only just cleared there.
This has been a crazy start to the race. Get your breath, because we're going to have a replay in a minute. Oh, it's still going on.
It is. Dylan Gray up the inside of Troy Sipple. Sipple, though, tries to hang on around the outside. He will be left the exit road over the edge of the curve at turn 1. Is what's left there for him. It seems that now we can take a chance to look at our first race replay, thanks to Virtual Racing. So indeed, several cars slow, and yeah, you're right. The oh my word!
That's Tim Nicol looping it around, or is that
Lance Childs?
Lance Childs. Okay, so we're going to have a look at that in a minute.
there's Tim Nicol there on the exit of 1, and everyone scatters to avoid him. And then, unfortunately for Stead Miller, all by himself over the curb at turn 3.
He tried to stay in the throttle too to try and get out of that too, but couldn't do it. Come back live because it's still going on back here. Sipple's just getting absolutely mugged. We saw Dylan Gray get through, but now it's 3 wide at the exit of turn 13 across the start line. And Thomas Riley, I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to make it 4 wide, but it's probably a little bit too far back with no road to go on. He's gone.
He's going to exit stage right. Actually, somehow by a minor miracle keeps it actually on the asphalt as Craig Mason's around out of what was 5th place. Up at turn number 3 and 4. Thankfully just off the racing line, but what was now Falcon parked. So let's have a look at this one here on an instant replay. So loose out of turn 1 and then over the curb, gets loose rear, gets grass on the exit good measure, and then in the fence. And the bonnet pops away into the ether.
I must say the aggression levels from everyone in this race, if I could use my words, as Anthony Green has a little moment, he's going to come back into the pits. The aggression level from everyone in the field is extremely high. I mean, we've seen a lot of aggressive racing in the series before, but I cannot remember the aggression levels being as high and as high stakes as it is tonight.
Not wrong there indeed. As another rough run through turn 12 for Troy Sipple's going to give Thomas Riley a chance up the inside here. And in fact, already knows ahead for the Triple Eight on the inside. Sipple will try now break him though at turn 1 here, Jay. And both cars will pull it upright this time into the corner. So they'll go side by side with Tregarthen wanting to get back in. Sipple in deep as Riley tries to hang it on the outside. Contact between the two of them. See Sipple head and then Riley off into the grass. Not quite the fence though at turn 4. He'll drop in behind Tregarthen. And while all of that's happening, race control have been busy looking at the start of lap 1 because the number 6 of Dylan Gray has a black flag for contact at the start of the race.
I think that was for the contact we saw with Tim Nicol through turn 1 potentially. Not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that, but that would be my guess on how that has played out. Not 100% sure. He'll come into the lane this time. Yep, and does. Serve that penalty. Tim Nicol is actually closing in on Colin Bruns here. I must say Colin Bruns is doing a very, very good job. He's come in as a wild card for Middle Finger Racing in this event, and he's jumped up. What's that? 8 spots? Where he started? Yes.
Let's have a quick look.
15 to 7.
That is indeed 8 spots. And you would be spot on in saying that Dylan Gray seems to have been deemed at fault for contact with Tim Nicol. Now, how's this though for incident drama? Him and Lance Childs were both going around a slow starting car of Gavin Cox, who did a big fat set of 11sies off the start, and Tim Nicol, slow ahead of Childs, was in the way, and the 33 has moved over to try and get past Nicol and driven into the side of Dylan Gray, and that's what sent the Froglet car into the fence for turn 1, and then Gray gets loose under brakes and takes Tim Nicol through the apex of turn 1. In the process of all of that, triggering that big kerfuffle there at the start of the race. As here they all somewhat calmed down, you might hope.
Oh, look, you've said the wrong thing there, because now it's just going to go off its head again. You know what battle is starting to get close?
I can dream.
Lead. It's the lead getting close. Also, this one here, Hayden Johnson, Gavin Cox for 4th and 5th is close, but the lead has closed up a lot. We know that these two leave it all on the line until maybe half a lap to go. Before that, they will race as hard as anyone else without taking each other out. So even though these guys are teammates, you can tell that from the identical cars, they are going to race and race hard.
They sure will. No team orders between these two. Never has been.
Oh, this is going to be bad.
Will be Tregarthen up the inside of Sipple. Actually gets the job done before we get to turn 6. And able to vault the car over the curb there at turn 7, nicely enough. And job done for the 0.35. And continuing to try and make some spots up here at this point in the race. Gavin Cox in behind Hayden Johnson. He's closing down the front straight, but not close enough. Oh, never mind that. No, yep. Oh, as a result, actually, it's going to force Johnson in deep at turn 1. Cox to the outside of 2. Will this actually force Johnson in way too hot for 2 and 3? It will, but Cox not able to capitalise, I should say. And instructions that Troy Sipple is to redress for an incident with Thomas Riley earlier on. And a good thing for Troy Sipple is Riley is directly behind him at this point on the road, so that can be done easily enough. Although Sipple needs to be careful here if he doesn't want to lose a spot for Stephen Kennedy behind in the 55 M1 Racing Falcon.
I think he's going to, because he's just given up a little bit too much ground. Good news for Anthony Green. He's come back out of the pits. He's already made 2 stops to get damage fixed, but he's come back out in only 1 lap down. So if he continues on, he will still get points. Just need to finish at 75% race distance to receive points in this series from memory. As Hayden Johnson off the circuit at the last complex corners, has there been any assistance between he and Gavin Cox, or has he done that one all on his lonesome?
Well, I guess we'll find out in a second. And Troy Sipple decided that the grass cuttings that Hayden Johnson made were a nice attempt to copycat. Oh my word, yeah. I think I did maybe apply a commentator's curse, because I just watched this in the replay there of Hayden Johnson, Troy Sipple doing a carbon copy, and Tim Nicol getting all kinds of loose at turn 1.
You need to stop with this thinking that things are settled down stuff, because they never ever settle down in a V8 race, especially around any of the Aussie tracks. Colin Brunn's having a couple of technical issues there. You just see him magically reappearing. Also seeing Stead Miller in the pits in the 024. He's come in to get some damage fixed as well. So lots of cars feeling a bit beaten, broken, battered and bruised in this one.
It would seem to be the case here as top 2 winding their way out of turn 1. But our eyes are here on the fight, which looks to be between, this is Colin Bruns and Tim Nicol. That checks out. 7th and 8th on the road at the moment at this time.
Hayden Johnson not that far ahead of him as well, so there's still a fair bit to fight for in this battle.
There is indeed. Nicol looks to be a little better on the brakes there at 1. Bruns wasn't able to get across all the way, I think.
If Nicol had positioned his car better out of 1, he would have got a move done there. Just couldn't quite get across. Lindsay Hobbs has come into this now too.
He's coming. Excalibur Esports Commodore on its way from the background of shot. There's been some more trouble for Dylan Gray at turn 1 on
Thomas Riley as well.
A good measure, and yeah, it looks like they're all. Let's see, Thomas Riley. Oh no, Thomas Riley. Yeah.
Oh. Lance Childs almost made contact there.
Unfortunately for the Triple Eight machine, he's gone a long ways back.
Who was the other car you said? Dylan Gray as well.
Dylan Gray has had a moment at turn 1, and okay, up the inside of Troy Sipple.
Oh, it's too much
brake. This is what got him a penalty on lap 1. Locked rears. Almost a carbon copy, and we've actually lost Colin Bruns from the server.
Oh no, that's really disappointing, because he was doing a great job, and you know, been one of the biggest movers in the field, if not the biggest mover in the field. That's too much right foot there for Thomas Riley, unfortunately. Watch here. Here comes Lance Childs. Next car through. To the blue, black.
Thomas.
And I tell you what, good job from Lance Childs to be aware of what was going on. And I believe you're saying, oh no, Thomas, because he's had another moment out of the final corner.
He sure has, and the leaders are coming any moment now into the picture. As, Troy Sipple's having a massive moment as well, up at turns 2 and 3, into 4 now. And he's going to backing into Lance Childs.
Yep.
Oh no, the track is borderline blocked. The leaders are coming any second now. They need to be careful about this. The leaders are coming, but they both get going just in time. As we're going to look at this here. And you couldn't have picked the worst time.
That's going to be pretty easy for race control to work out what to do in that situation. Yeah. I'm sure we'll see a little message come through in just a moment.
Yeah, and as a result,
Tipple's race is already pretty bad, but it's going to get worse when race control come and say some stern words to him very soon.
Yeah, mechanical black flag for the 17, and almost certainly some kind of penalty or something that they'll try and issue in that case to him. Will be a pretty rough one there. Indeed, as we go back to live pictures and check in on Lindsay Hobbs, who's now been promoted in all of the chaos and conundrums around us, but critically also the loss of Colin Bruns to P8 in the server. To try and hunt down Tim Nicol there to have a go at 7th on the road in this race at this stage. Gap between the top two has grown again to about 9/10 of a second. They've also checked out from everyone else in the field. 9.7 seconds the margin between first and third. Daniel Stevens behind the wheel of the number 3, and once again 1, 2, 3 are 1, 2, and 3 on the road.
Lindsay Hobbs not quite closing up fast enough to get a move done at this stage, but Tim Nicol's pace has been a little bit inconsistent. I mean, not due to all of his own doing, but definitely has had some issues throughout this one so far. Hey, thinking about that, I don't know if there's too many cars that haven't had too many issues throughout this one. Just ahead of these guys is Hayden Johnson. He's just had a slowdown penalty from turn 6, 7, 8. So he has now dropped a little bit of ground and is now within draft range of Tim Nicol. So we've got another 3-car battle going for 6th place, just different cars. So the last time we called a 3-car battle for these guys.
Yeah, well, it's been busy now on track. I'm not going to say anything about the state of the race this time. I've clearly learned, I'm going to have to learn my lesson on that one there.
Learned the hard way.
Well, apparently I spoke the magic words and thus brought down upon the server a wave of misery and sorrow.
You know the commentator's curse is a real thing. You've learnt that the hard way over the last 12 months.
Have I been cursed though, or am I starting to... I'm just starting
You're
to
now starting to do the cursing.
Yeah. Is there such thing as a producer's curse as well, by the way?
Look, there is, but I guess that's sort of a commentator's curse. Is there's Hayden Johnson having a moment? Definitely is, because I have said many things in your ear in the past when I haven't been commentating that have then ended up happening, or the complete opposite has happened. So I would say yes, there is, but it's more evident when it's commentators.
All right, well, I'll have to be careful then, because it's... well, hopefully we'll have news to share about what's coming up on SimSpeed in 2023 in due course. But also making some moves out of the commentator's chair into a bit more of the producer's chair in due course, as Tim Nicol nearly decides to escort Hayden Johnson off the road at turn 1 there. Just pulls it up in time, though, to avoid that from becoming an issue. And Lindsay Hobbs now also right on the gearbox of the 23 to boot as well. All fighting over 6th place on the road at this point in time.
One thing to note is tyres. We know that these licorice straps that sit on the wheels, not really tyres, they're just bits of rubber that dissolve rather quickly in these things. They're going to struggle to make 26 laps without causing too many issues. I mean, next race we won't see those issues because, of course, there is a pit stop, but these guys are going to be hurting come the end of these 26 lap races, this 26 lap race, I should say. And we've seen pretty much every car in the field sideways, spinning, lighting them up, absolutely ripping skids out of corners. There's not going to be much rubber left on any of these tyres come the end of the race. Look at the big lockups. Look at the tyre smoke from every single driver coming into turn 1. There's not going to be much left on those Dunlops.
It certainly isn't. You're not wrong there. Curious to see if we see a major drop in pace. Temperature conditions mean, well, since we're talking about how the car performance is going to change and degrade over time, if we talk about temperatures in the server, it's currently 5:30 p.m. virtual time on today's date, Friday the 4th of November 2022. means we've currently got an air temperature of 19 degrees and a track temperature of 25 degrees Celsius.
Pretty accurate on what temperature it was in Melbourne around that time, was it not? It was around 19 degrees, 5:30 this evening.
Yeah, I'd say
it was around
accurate.
21, 22 up here, so I'm about 150 k's north of Melbourne, so I reckon that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I'd say that checks enough boxes as to the weather.
Close enough for the right weather at this time of year.
Yeah, I mean we can't quite give if the rain that's been battering the entire southeast of the country of recent. But
I'll tell you what, I'm glad we don't have realistic weather on iRacing yet, because some of the races we would have had over Australian tracks over the last month would have been horrendous.
It's just rained out. Actually, will there be such thing as rained out in sim?
Imagine that. Now, just a side note before we go back to our joking about things. Race Control actually had a penalty to hand out to Troy Sipple for his unsafe re-entry, but he brought the car into the pits due to his mechanical black flag. So that penalty does not exist. There will be a license point penalty post-race for that incident.
There's no surprises there, all things considered, really.
I think that would have been the easiest decision Race Control would make all year around an unsafe re-entry.
Yes, quite so. Really doesn't get much worse than the timing we saw out of Sipple, as that's Hayden Johnson breaking the toe very early. Tim Nicol not going with him at all.
Is he breaking the toe, or is he just had a poor exit and just trying to make sure he doesn't get run over?
He looked decent enough out of turn 12 there.
Did he miss a shift, maybe? Did he, not pull the gear at the right time? I mean, you don't really miss shifts, but you can mistime a shift, which can affect your run.
You certainly can be too late if you're not
too
focusing.
Late or a lot too early if you're not paying huge amounts of attention or concentrating too much on your mirrors, or maybe some drivers struggle in this car when they have slight audio issues, because I know for me personally, when I was driving these cars, I didn't rely on look, lights or anything. I relied 100% on audio to know when to change gears.
Yeah, certainly the art of the sim racer. What do you use to, what do you go by? Do you go by visual cues? Do you go by audio cues? We've got tactile cues, which for the most part, well, that's force feedback and shakers, which aren't really going to tell you much about shifting, as unfortunately there, that would be the 47 of Craig Mason.
Yes.
Whose car already in the wars, up and over the curb. He's actually going to just dodge the Pertec fencing on the outside of the track, but car comes down off the curb at turn 4 there and does not particularly appreciate that loss of grip. He drops down a lap, but I don't think he's lost any places.
No, he hasn't.
In all of that, so just
this
behind
battle at the front is getting rather feisty. So that little incident there caused these guys to check up a little. I don't think Henry King is quite close enough to potentially make a move. I'll tell you what, Lindsay Hobbs probably is. One thing I was about to say before we cut away to that incident is that these three, even though they're fighting, they're catching Darren Crosby ahead as well. So this 3-car fight is very, very quickly turning into a 4-car battle for a top 5 spot.
It's certainly good. And we've got ourselves 7 laps to go for this group at the line here. So plenty of time to make sure they keep their priorities on straight. Here is Nicol. Better exit off of turn number 12 here. This time already showing the nose to the inside as they make their way down the front stretch here. And in fact, Nicol a lot faster on this particular lap so far. Johnson will cover off and he's deep on the brakes at 1. Nicol actually this time braking earlier and pulling it up better. At the same time though, Hayden Johnson just hangs on to pulling it up though without issue. They need to make sure they're not doing too much of this, boys. Eyes on the prize that is P5 in the hands of the 66 of Crosby. Go race him. Don't just race a group of 3 here.
It's turning into a bit of a crazy fight. I mean, the one positive these 3 have, we're going to say 3 for now, is that Trecarthen is a fair way behind. I tell you what, if Nicol backed out of that very quickly, but then sort of stuck his nose in there a little. Almost contact. Tim Nicol runs wide. Lindsay Hobbs runs wide. They race on. They continue on their fighting. Stephen Kennedy also closing in on Nathan Trecarthen at a rapid rate just behind these guys. This race has just gone from casual to holy hell. This is just broken into some sort of boxing match.
There was a little bit of a helping hand from
Yes,
Tim
there
Nicol
was.
there on the back of Lindsay Hobbs. Hobbs just got it pulled up, though, for turn 9 there at Dandenong Road. Thankfully, we're going to jump to a Virtual Racing School replay to have a look at all that again, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, we are. So you see here, middle of the road defense from Nicol, but Lindsay says, no, I want on in. Up inside, gets it in nice and deep. But then Nicol, yes, he said tries to swing around the outside. Hobbs leaving space on the outside there, and then bonk. But luckily for Hobbs there, had it pulled up just enough that didn't run beyond the exit curb there at turn 1. And they both carry on, but they've also lost the back of Hayden Johnson in the process a bit there. They're going to have to work to catch up to him.
Johnson's used that one lap to actually close a fair bit of ground up to Darren Crosby, hasn't he? Gained around about 0.7 of a second over the last little bit, so he's closing up. But yeah, this battle at the front still going on. The biggest gap between these cars has been about 7.5 of a second. Current gap. That's Tregarthen.
It is indeed, and all kinds of parked the wrong way on the circuit there. He will spin that car around and get going. But what has happened there? Because he was being caught, you said there, by Stephen Kennedy. And
That's that curb.
thankfully for Stephen's case, it's not involving him. It's happened just before he gets there. Unfortunately for Nathan there, as you said, indeed, the curb at turn 8. Technically the left-hand part of the flick there at the bottom of the S's has caught
It's the old entry curve from that horrible old infield section of track, which they've kept the curb and the runoff to the infield from the old circuit. That's the only remnants that you'll see from the old horrible edition. The entrance to it at turn 6 and the re-entry at turn 8. Everything else was ripped up as it should be.
And a horse racing track now lives inside.
Well, I mean, it was there anyway, but yeah, they've made sure that there's no remnants, nothing exists of that track. It's all out of our memories, and rightfully so, because it was horrible.
Well, on the one hand, I kind of wish we had...
I wish we could run it just to prove how bad it was. There you can see it in the background. You can see the rejoining bit right there. But the most fun part of the track is the S's, and it took the most fun part of the track out.
Yes, it is true. Still, I think I'd probably go look at one of the sims that supports modding. Someone probably has put together a version of sorts.
I mean, if you drive it and it's a really bad layout, you found the right one.
Duly noted then.
You can tell I wasn't a fan of it, I mean, I'm old enough to remember a couple of races, not many. But yeah, it wasn't great.
Yeah, clearly not. You've been very clear about your opinion.
I've really swung your opinion on it. If you were undecided on whether you wanted to have a go at it or not, I think you do want to have a go just to see if I'm right about how bad it is.
I think I can believe you when it comes down to your word on things, but yes, certainly.
Let's just say it took all the fun out of Sandown, because Sandown is amazing for its long straights, fast corners. This section that these guys are coming through here, it ruined all of that, because you had to have a car with downforce for tight, twisty hairpins that made no sense and were just there because they needed to be there on a squiggly bit of paper.
Well, fair enough. Let's talk about that another time, because there's been a whole lot of drama whilst we've been watching the leaders in the mid-pack. I think
this
I saw...
got really tight. Mason had an issue.
Yeah,
Craig Mason did have an issue, but this got really tight, hasn't it?
Thomas Riley also apparently going... I think I saw Thomas Riley going off at the turn 1. But yes, there's this fight here. There is technically the fight for the race lead. We'll get back to that in due course. Because
they're not going to change position. We know that.
2 laps to go. Oh, I kind of want Henry King to go for it, just so
I'm sure he will have a go for it, but it's not going to be something ambitious where there might be contact. He's going to go for it if he's 100% sure he's going to make the spot. But these guys here, they're going to go for it regardless.
Wowee! Hey, Johnson trying to get round Darren Crosby there, who was defending to the inside late.
Was there contact there, or was it just...
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Deep under brakes will be the 66 M1 racing machine. Actually pulls it up nicely there at turn 1. 2 to go for these guys. Johnson tries around the outside of turn 2, but that's been suicide all night long. And that's going to continue on here. Your top two are coming into turn 12
Hobbs
now.
and Nickel are going to be back in this. But there they are.
Indeed. White flag is going to be in the hands of Barney here at the timing stand for your hitching shifters machines, who, as you can see, have checked out to the tune of 16.5 seconds from the rest of the field. It's actually insane how far ahead they now are compared to everyone else. This is the fight for fifth, and they're only just approaching Dandenong Road. Here now as Johnson tries to get that pulled up, a little bit of left front locking there, which I'm sure just about everyone's done tonight at that particular turn. They've got 3 kilometers and change of racetrack to sort themselves out here to this place. You see them both cars really working deep into turn 12 there, Jay, as they'll receive the flag from Barney, who will now wave that flag with the stamina of an elite athlete.
Yeah, poor Barney will be off to see the shoulder surgeon after this one. Go and get a bit of work done. Need to see the masseuse. You can see Nathan Tregarthen has decided to slow up and forcefully potentially go a lap down. But going to be yet another 1-2 for the 1-2. Aaron Gilbert, Henry King, they're going to finish as they started, position 1, position 2. Great drive from both. Absolute dominance.
Yeah, there is nothing more that needs to be said. Johnson looking late on Crosby at turn 6. Doesn't get it pulled up. He's gonna bomb it at down the Dandenong Road. Here it comes. There's the bomb. Round goes to 66. Lindsay Hobbs will get through, I think, on the way to turn 11. Johnson might try and fight it out here down into that last couple of corners, but he will not. Hobbs will get the 2 spots in the result and will put himself up to P5 in the process. And that's a thank you very much, says Lindsay Hobbs in that number 12 machine. And, from the angles I was seeing, Hayden Johnson not close enough, or not far up enough to have earned the inside. So I reckon we might see a license point penalty post-race there. Dylan Gray looking a little slow there out of turn number 9.
Yeah.
And that's a bit too hot into the final couple of turns as well. Locks the rears again, and unfortunately, Dylan Gray will do us a little burnout.
Spectacular way to end the race.
It's for the fans. It's for the fans, Jay. Let's just remember. Read it and, celebrate in some fashion. Sideways
fashion. The second
fashion.
one was a celebration, probably, more so than the first.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens in race 2 then, if we can maybe see the burnouts for better reasons, perhaps, as it were. Your results from race 1 of the V8s, though, here tonight. Aaron Gilbert from Henry King, half a second between them at the line, not even, but back to P3, 17.3 seconds to Daniel Stevens, who continues to be, technically on the standings, he's not the best of the rest, but it seems that, generally speaking, for most races, that is the case. Gavin Cox will make your MFR 3 and 4 there tonight. Gavin, please make yourself cut number 4 next time you're racing in the series, so we can just say 1, 2, 3, 4, come 1, 2, 3, 4, keep the pattern going. But alas, that is not to be this time around, or this season around. Lindsay Hobbs there in P5, said sneaks through on Hayden Johnson after that attempt on Darren Crosby, going a bit sideways there. Tim Nicol moves up into 7th. Crosby sent back to 8th. Stephen Kennedy in 9th. Nathan Tregarthen going to round out your top 10 there in race 1. Dylan Gray, our last driver there on the lead lap in 11th. Craig Mason, Lance Childs, and Thomas Riley all finish 1 lap shy of your leaders. Anthony Green 2 laps short. And then our retirements from the race. Troy Sipple at 10 laps down. Colin Bunn 17 laps shy. Unfortunately, technical problems sending him out of the service. Steady Miller early damaged the 024, 19 laps down. And that was it. As we're going to quickly look at that incident one last time here from the Virtual Racing School replay cameras. Is deep on the brakes, and unfortunately, that does not look like that was anywhere near enough overlap for Johnson to have secured the attempt for the inside there on Darren Crosby.
No, that was ambitious to say the least, wasn't it? So, disappointing end to that race for Crosby, but it was highly entertaining. I mean, if you knew nobody in the race and just tuned in to watch this one for the first time, you would have thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to the next one. Of course, we do the same again with a slight tweak of reversing the entire grid. So Stead Miller will start from pole. and Aaron Gilbert will start from last and tell them they have to come in and change tyres as well. So bring it on. I love this format.
Yeah, this will be interesting to watch there. You're not wrong indeed. See here what the guys who are now at the front of the field can make of it. Of course, they will be critical to making this this start. Let's see what it can be. So another 26 laps going to be on the board. Indeed, it's myself, Daniel Gaiman, Jay Kennedy alongside me on the mic for this one again here. Another 20 seconds to get this race back underway. Confirmation from Race Control coming in through the in-game chat that they'll have to take at least 2 tyres in a compulsory pit stop. Opens end of lap 2, will close end of lap 20. I think it's meant to be closed end of lap 24, but he's just said end of lap 23 over the in-game radio. So I guess
I'm sure everyone will be well and truly done by then.
Yes, wouldn't see too many drivers, I think, going too long. Rev's going to rise here for the second race of the V8s as we get the green flag here at the front of the field. We're away as the 66 across. He's not gotten away. He's stalled out slow again. Thankfully, everyone's gotten around this time with no damage, but we're 3 wide into turn 1 up ahead. And trouble. Oh, Riley's around. He's going to make contact with a couple of cars, and it's picked several cars off on the outside, and Troy Sipple's in the barrier on the left. As Henry King's making moves early. He's already up into P number 7 off the start, but nearly put in the grass for good measure as well at turn 2.
I've seen Troy Sipple has unfortunately escaped back to the pits, as is Darren Crosby. I'm thinking Crosby has had a technical issue because he did not get away at the start at all. Also seen that Colin Bruns, you saw the damage that he had coming out of turn 1. Mechanical black flag. The race is all but over as well. But that was a messy start, to say the least. We're going to replay of it after these guys clear a little, but instead Miller's made the most of it. Look at the gap he's already pulled at the front.
He's absolutely bolted like the horse out of the gate. That's been, well, it's heard a gunshot. I don't think it's actually been shot because he's got, oh my goodness, off in the background. Hayden Johnson down the timing tower. The 333 has found the dirt at turn 11 of all places. We haven't seen many drivers go off there in recent memory, but that's certainly come unstuck as Lindsay Hobbs is up the inside of Anthony Green for P5. Several drivers wide at turn 1, including Craig Mason and I think Nathan Tregarthen there somewhat, as Henry King looking to get on through. He will get through here as, oh my word, it's too wide for P2 here. That's going to mean that Steve Miller just checks out even more up front, and they all compress here at turn 4, Jay.
Lindsay Hobbs did a great job of pulling that up on Tregarthen. I mean, Tregarthen did nothing wrong in moving across. He was clear and had the corner, but Hobbs was in so hot, and these guys were so down on pace because of how they checked up through turns 2 and 3. Hobbs did a great job to not make contact and cause a huge track blockage. So great driving from Lindsay Hobbs there, but Lance Childs gets hit again.
Oh, no!
That's 2 races in a row.
Oh, my word. That's gone all kinds. I was watching Lindsay Hobbs in behind having a massive moment, but unfortunately it's Lance Childs who has the biggest moment of it all.
Mechanical black flag for him as well.
Is seriously damaged those race cars as a result. Indeed, Aaron Gilbert straight into the pits at the start of the pit window. He is getting out of the fight.
Same with Dan Stevens.
Dan Stevens, no surprises there. They were getting held up massively, whereas Henry King had actually gotten clear of most of this chaos on that second lap there. So he is now free to sort of start running down the guys up ahead and get those spots, use the clean air, get a little bit more towards the clean window. As see Stevens is running down the lane on the zoom cam, but I wish I could see Aaron Gilbert. I can't due to the fact that the...
Has Aaron Gilbert actually came in for a drive-through penalty?
He has.
Right.
Interesting. He did... I don't think he jumped the start. So what on earth has he...
Oh. Now, Thomas Riley, see when he launched there, that was just crazy.
It was like monster truck starts
there from bizarre,
the...
wasn't it? Just watch the 111 there, nowhere to go, gets squeezed, front and rear contact, car damaged, that's race over. Saw Troy Sipple there also off the circuit, so he's actually been given a post-race penalty as well. He'll be under investigation for escaping without permission, but just looking at the timing, Aaron Gilbert has come in to serve a drive-through. but we haven't received any news about it.
Yeah, indeed. Cycled straight down the pits rather
Is that
than
an iRacing initiated black flag? I never saw one.
It has to be because he was never given a penalty in game, or never given an admin penalty. Those are the words I'm trying to say here at the moment.
So I think Daniel Stevens has been caught out by that. I don't think Stevens would have pitted if he didn't see Aaron Gilbert come into the lane.
Yeah, I think you're right. We can't quite see Dan Stevens' facial expressions due to the fact that he's indeed got his zoom cam over the shoulder to allow us to see everything going on with his setup.
But you can hear you though. You just gave me a thumbs up. I don't know if you saw that.
I missed it, unfortunately. I was looking back over the production feed. They're on opposite sides of my setup tonight, which, well, that's just how I have to
Just keep a look out. He'll give you another thumbs up after he stops manoeuvring his car. There's Henry King just going through.
On Craig Mason.
Craig Mason. Here he goes. He'll give you a thumbs up here in a second. I'm sure he will. There he goes. See, told ya.
Yeah. Unfortunate there, Dan, in that case, because, yeah, not too surprised. You would have thought, let's go in with the guy who's fast and use him to work with him.
Well, with the guy that was the winner of the first race. I mean, not just that he was fast. It was... Yeah, but in saying that, he hasn't come out in too bad a spot. I mean, he's right behind... that is Nathan... No, sorry, that's Hayden Jackson just ahead, who's the lap down. But Tim Nicol has just come into the pits, who was in that lead group, has come out behind Dan Stevens, so it's not too bad.
Oh, no. Stevens should revert to net P3 on the road, I would think, if his pace continues decently along here in this phase of the race. And 108.5 is lapping faster than most, with the exception of both the Jinx Shifters cars, lapping in the mid to low 107s at this point in the race. They're continuing to be a class of their own in race trim. Qualifying was definitely closer, but tonight it seems the Jinx Shifters cars are just completely untouchable. Hayden Jackson has a big old moment there at Dandenong Road by himself. Craig Mason has also been passed there by Lindsay Hobbs down into turn number 1. Well, I look forward to seeing it, because there's also been more trouble between Tim Nicol and Hayden Jackson at the final turn. Oh yeah, no wonder Craig Mason's lost a spot to Lindsay Hobbs. He decided to
How did Hobbs avoid him? Now, something has happened to Tim Nicol, because I can see his car is facing the wrong way. Now, also, just been off in another world, but chatting with race control around what happened with Aaron Gilbert. Now, they had no idea that he even drove into the pits, or that he'd come into the pits and didn't take service. They've now checked it, and they are under the thinking, the same as me as well, as that was not a drive-through penalty. That is him missing his pit box and having to continue to drive on through. So a mistake in the pits from Aaron Gilbert. Now, of course, if you are new to iRacing, you will, or are a member of iRacing, you'll understand that the pit boxes are ordered in your grid position. Now, of course, race 1, Aaron Gilbert wins the race. Mentally, he's gone into the pits thinking he's pit box 1, but he's not, because he started this race in technically P20, which is the first pit box as you enter the pits. He's driven into the pits, driven straight past his box. Then by the time he's realised, too late, can't reverse it, got to drive on through. So, huge error for Aaron Gilbert. And he's going to have to drive the wheels off that thing to get back-to-back wins in this one. Especially now his teammate leads, and leads by a good margin.
Right, just gotten through on Stead Miller. He has Henry King. As you see there, Dylan Gray getting by Anthony Green for position number 5 at this time. Also, a black flag is actually now issued by race control, and it's gone to the 333 of Hayden Jackson. That would be for contact, I believe.
Three.
Pardon me, but 3 was...
That was with Lance Charles.
That's of course right. Yes, down here
was
at
potentially.
Yes, that would make
Tim
sense.
Nicol. It was Tim Nicol. Yep. Just seeing the message from Ben Christensen in race control. It was for contact with Tim Nicol. I should have trusted my instinct first time, like you should have earlier.
See, all of us have come to overthinking at this point.
It's one of those days. It surely is.
Yes, it would seem to be the case. Yes, so on board here with Anthony Green, you can see Dylan Gray has decided to get clear and check out pretty quickly. There's also, in saying that, Anthony Green looks to be well off the pace compared to those around him at this stage. He's still hanging on at the front of the field. Well, where he started this race,
Top
at this
7
point in
also
time.
yet to pit too. So keep that in mind that 8th on back have made their compulsory pit stop. Hayden Jackson has now come through the lane twice, obviously once to stop and once to actually make his CPS. But everyone else in the field has pitted. Tell you what, I feel for Colin Bruns. He was doing really well in that first race, up 10 or 11 spots. Has an internet disconnect. Comes in for redemption, starting up towards the front for race 2. And ends up with a mechanical black flag at the end of the first corner. It hasn't been a great night for him coming in as a wild card. Fingers crossed we see him back at Road America in a couple of weeks' time, though.
Yes, you would hope so in that case. Because, well, yeah, when things crawled out of your control when it comes to internet disconnects, and then a bit of being roughed up pretty quickly there at the start of race number 2 is certainly not the way to go about it. So, yeah, actually, Hayden Johnson, sorry, the last time I was serving his driver, he's actually visited pits 3 times now in this race. Also, I just wanted to say, yeah, good observation they're talking about. He said he's come down for his pit stop and then his CPS, but just chalk that one up to a commentary error because it's one of those days again when you were talking there about Hayden Jackson. But it's not that big of a deal, I guess, on the grand scheme of things because well, we're making plenty of the gaffes as we both go along.
Look, we've had plenty of gaffes tonight. I know I have. I've clicked the wrong button how many times? That's no surprise that I clicked the wrong button.
There are a lot of buttons to click. I will most definitely.
You have seen the buttons that I have to click in this, and when you're talking and trying to multitask, it does get quite difficult when you're trying to pay attention to the race at the same time. It's not easy, but we do our best, and as you were saying before, you'll be stepping out of the comms seat and into the production booth a bit more next year, or later this year potentially, maybe early next year. It's going to be fun to have you doing that and teaching you some things. It'd be good to have a bit of expanded coverage of some different things next year as well.
Yes. Apparently,
secrets coming soon.
Yeah, indeed. I don't do enough things in sim racing. Apparently, you know, I try. Occasionally, I steer a car on the rare chance I actually feel like driving, or otherwise, I'm doing various other.
Pedal, all right.
I try pedal. Don't get me pedaling one of these things though. I can tell you right now, would be a bit of a horror show trying to pedal one of these things. But waffle on about pedaling these cars later and things like, because Henry King is going to complete his compulsory pit service. He is now the leader of those who have pitted. Of course, coming out in P number 6, and a lot of clean air between. A lot of clean air to come in to fall back into there, so that's worked out beautifully for them. Dan Stevens, first car behind to have pitted, and despite having fresh tyres on earlier than Henry King, has come out 7 odd seconds behind at this point in the race. It's definitely been the Jinx Shifters, or the Jinx Shifters Henry James Racing show in race 1, and that is definitely continuing in race 2, although it's a bit more of a one-sided affair with Aaron Gilbert set to drop down the order for his actual pit stop at some point in this one. You would think, I guess, now holding out hope for a safety car to enable him to get a cheaper pit stop and reset somewhere mid-pack.
Well, we said earlier that we wouldn't really see anyone pit around that lap 23-24 mark. The pit window closes at the end of lap 23. The race control said, but Nick a little bit deep in the background. Aaron Gilbert might, just in the hope that there is a safety car and he can time it well. So he would be the only one that would benefit from running that long. But even then, it's going to be very, very difficult. Anthony Green has come out in an interesting position. Now, his pit stop was extremely long. I am going to guess that he accidentally has filled the car up with fuel.
That would
27
right.
seconds stopped. He still would have had, what, a third of a tank of fuel? Tank of fuel in this thing is around about
111 litres.
111 litres, which I think takes around about 40 seconds. So take a third off that. That's around about 27 seconds or so. I'm going to say he's put 2/3 of fuel in the car, 2/3 of a tank of fuel in the car, 4 tyres, but still has rejoined 4th out of those that have made their pit stop.
Yeah, it's certainly been a war of woes for a lot of cars behind Anthony Green at this point. Tim Nicol, we saw having a bit of a wobble on the background of shop at turn 4 the previous lap time around. You've got then Thomas Riley, who's actually a lap down on Stead Miller, and those who are yet to pit currently. Then Hayden Johnson with his multiple adventures down the pit lane. Unfortunately there for the 333. Then Nathan Tregarthen and Lance Childs. Although at that point, Johnson, Tregarthen are now 4 laps off the lead of the race, and Childs 6 laps down, unfortunately, with their heavy damage that they've picked up early on in this one, meaning they've had lengthy stays in the pits already in this race, to be honest. In the case of Tregarthen and Childs, I can say that with certainty. With Johnson's case, I actually can't, because the last time he went to the pits was a drive-through penalty only.
Oh no! Stead Miller off the circuit from the lead. And interesting, have a look at that. Everyone has decided to just drive straight into the pits. Hobbs, Miller, Mason, all in the lane. The reason they're coming in, the exact halfway point of the race is now. Dylan Gray leads the field. Has not been in the pit lane. The only car that has not driven into the pit lane in this race. Of course, we can say that Aaron Gilbert hasn't pitted, but has driven in the pit lane.
He has indeed. And, well, he'll certainly be ready for his pit box being right at the back of the lane. Because as you said, yeah, 20...
I know where it is now.
There's 20 pit stalls here at Sandown virtually, and yeah, 20 cars. Exactly.
Stead Miller, after his little whoopsies, just made it worse because he has decided to not get the fuel out of the car, or he's got another issue because look at how long this stop is. Has he sped in the pit lane on the way in?
Unsafe. No,
Unsafe
actually, no, that's pretty much impossible. That, I think, is fuel situation there.
Yeah, maybe.
I suspect, because 40-second stationary as Thomas Riley's had a good old walloping of the fence up at turns 3 and 4
we've got
there.
a pretend battle going on here.
I like how we're not even going to imagine that. So Dan Stevens and Gavin
battle,
Cox,
is it?
both having pitted 10 and 11 laps ago, respectively.
Battle of the guys with a full tank of fuel.
At least that's what we think. But yeah, checks
the
out
way the
Stead
car
Miller.
moved there, that's definitely a full tank of fuel. It just didn't want to turn. It gripped and then it stopped gripping, and then you could see the car just not balance in the way you would expect. So I'm saying, yes, Stead Miller has a full tank of fuel.
Well, there we are. It'll put some stability in the back end of the car of sorts.
Wow.
It just will make it a bit of a boat as well.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a...
One of the quirks with this car when it did come out was the car behaved a lot better with 60 to 70 litres of fuel in it rather than qualifying fuel, which a lot of people right at the top end of sim racing would qualify the car with 60 or 70 litres of fuel in the car rather than emptying it out and getting rid of that 60 kilos.
Yep, it's a fair bit of weight in the back, but hey, if it happens to plant the rear end just a little bit...
Well, it gave you a bit of drive because the rear wheels are planted a bit more.
Indeed.
Oh.
There's a bit of an adventure there for Anthony Green.
Miller was going deep too, but he had to get on the brake a bit harder to make sure he didn't run out there as well.
Well, check the box, place taken. They carry on. They're on lap number 15 of this race, your leaders. Dylan Gray and Aaron Gilbert. Where are they?
Turn 1.
Time? They're down. Oh, okay, there goes. Yeah, Gray up at turn 4. Gilbert coming into turn 4 now. And Henry King exiting turn 1. And then these two, Stevens and Cox, which we're looking at. I was looking at, I think, actually. And then these two here, Mason and Hobbs, join the gang on lap 16 now. So, yeah, laps continue to tick down. Dylan Gray and Aaron Gilbert still trying to hang on here and hope above all odds that we get that old safety car, but it seems that we haven't had the big one yet.
Oh, no. What have you done?
Well, I didn't...
Daniel Yeaman, what have you done? You know what you've just said. You know what you've just brought about. I can see the look on your face. You're trying so hard not to laugh because you know what you've said.
Yeah, and then for great measure, I accidentally clicked somewhere else and disappeared for a second. So, you know, I'm really now at the top of my game. In my defense, I'd like to argue I didn't say it's been. I'm not going to say the word. I won't say the word for fear of what's already happened in the 2-litre Tours.
You won't say it because you know if someone ends up crashing out, they'll come and find you and hunt you down.
Oh, you'll hunt me down for starters, so
Oh,
you know.
no, I won't. Doesn't worry me.
Oh,
If
okay,
I was
there
on
you go.
track, I'd probably hunt you down, but
Yeah. Yeah, well,
because if I was on track, I'd be the one that you'd curse. Absolutely no doubt about it.
nothing like a little bit of undue, well, not even revenge, it's more just as it so happens. But yeah, that's a little adventure for me there. So whilst it's all been happening, indeed, Aaron Gilbert down to the pit lane, service complete, and he's now back out in P7, odds on. What do we think? What are we thinking here? What's the over-under on Aaron Gilbert getting to say back to position number 2?
I say 4. If you get to 4th, he might get 3rd, but between Cox and Stevens, they will make sure that he doesn't get both of those spots.
I mean, I'd love to think that's a possibility.
The only issue that they might find is, of course, the tyre life is so different. So 16 lap-old tyres for Stevens, 15 lap-old tyres for Cox, and Gilbert crosses the line to start lap 3 on this set of tyres.
Yeah, there is that. Should we make it lap 2?
Lap 2, yes, sorry. I'm misreading my numbers.
But yeah, I mean, looking at it, there's your middle finger Gio exiting turn 4. There's Aaron Gilbert exiting turn 3. He's not that far behind. The only thing that slows him down here is if these drivers who are racing him for position really stick the finger out and balk him for a couple of laps.
Which
and
there's
even then
every potential to happen, because it's not the easiest track to pass on at the best of times. Battling traffic that is racing hard as well can get quite difficult here.
it can, but I do feel as though
Gilbert is good at these cars, though. He can overtake in these cars very well.
he can indeed, has got the knowledge and the ability to overtake relative to this group. Also, yeah, just sheer pace. Oh, come on. Come on. I didn't even talk him up that much, did I?
There goes all of his momentum on the front straight. The ironic thing was he still set one of his fastest laps of the race. That was his second fastest lap of the race. He was on for a purple fastest lap of the race until that last sector as well. So you did well and truly ruin him. And yeah, commentators' curse is real, people.
So I'll get it all out of my system tonight because we've got a busy weekend of commentary.
We do. Big weekend, of course, majors tomorrow and then V8SCOPS on Sunday.
And it's not just any majors race; it's the majors championship finale. We've got a two-way fight to figure out who's going to win that title,
and a five-way fight for the Sportsman Championship.
That's true. We've got 2 championships to decide, and yeah, I really need to. So clearly, just dump it all now because we've got a 2-horse race in this series, and I don't know if Aaron Gilbert has a really clean race from here to the end. That would be good for him, I guess. It would make the championship fight a little bit less interesting, but hopefully Henry King here gets some points back in this second race tonight. Close the margin up with 2 races to go, although he's just been balked by the 333 of Hayden Johnson having a moment on his lonesome up at turn 4. No. Gilbert just doesn't get up the inside of it.
Anthony Green, that was. Tim Nicol and Anthony Green.
Yeah. You've got that thing happening. I was watching something else. It's true.
Oh.
I'm
there
actually
was contact there between Green and Nicol at Dandenong Road.
Oh, it's gotten worse at the final turn for Anthony Green.
It's
Thomas Riley, I think a bystander and all of that. I think. But that sort of went to hell in a handbasket very quickly there for all involved, as this pack of cars is quickly becoming one super pack from 2nd through to 7th.
Notice one thing about this pack, though. Aaron Gilbert hasn't been able to make an overtake.
So you know what? I thought he would just carve through everyone.
I was thinking he would make it a lot easier than he's made it. But he hasn't been able to make moves at all.
It is quite surprising. I mean, yeah, Lindsay Hobbs. It's as if, though, with Lindsay Hobbs is setting, if not PBs, very close to PBs in this race. As though having Aaron Gilbert up behind him is one hell of a motivating stick.
Well, think back to the start of the race. Henry King was able to make overtakes. Aaron Gilbert was not. have they got the car set up slightly differently, where King was able to make overtakes, but just didn't quite have the pace to pass Aaron Gilbert? Aaron Gilbert's got the outright speed, but can't make the overtakes. When they're nose to tail, they're just going to stay nose to tail, but swap them around and it's going to make things absolutely crazy and more difficult.
Yeah, or is it something like a case of he's just going to show the nose at Daniel Road? Lindsay Hobbs actually able to get it pulled up though, despite having to give half a width on the apex and actually not lose all that much down to turn 11 here. And then bang it over the curbs there. That's not a great run for the number 12 Excalibur Esports Commodore. Surely now, alone and vulnerable, this is the time to take the place, and Hobbs is not going to defend it into turn 1 here, Jay. Gilbert finally gets his first man that he wants here into turn 1.
Has he got time to get any more?
Is the switchback going to be on here for turn 2? No,
Hobbs is backed out of it.
Oh! Hobbs will force the issue, force him narrow, and just try and compromise the run to turn 4 at least. Does Hobbs have to drive here off turn 4 to maybe throw one back down at the bottom of the hill here?
Aaron Gilbert looks flustered. He doesn't look like the Aaron Gilbert we've seen all season. He's got cracks in the armor. There's chinks in the armor. He's not able to make moves and carve his way through the field like he's comfortable doing. And notice there too is there's a lot of smoke from Gavin Cox. Notice this, now that he's clear, he pulled a fairly lengthy margin straight away. So I think
that car
Gilbert,
ultra low wing.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. He's designed 100% for top speed, nothing else. So then he's obviously on the brakes a little bit earlier to try and pull the car up. Can't quite make the move because he doesn't have the ability right at the end of the straight. So he can close up the gap, but he just can't get the move done. Doesn't quite have enough at the end. Craig Mason, he was dancing on those rears.
He sure was, and that's going to make the 47 very vulnerable up here in the next couple of turns. Although Gilbert in too deep at turn 2, in my opinion. Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, you wouldn't really make a move at turn 4 most days of the week, but even then, maybe would have had half a chance of firing one up the inside a bit experimentally. What it does mean is he's a long way back as they climb up to turn 6. Again, 3.5 laps to go for this group of drivers. Here is, up ahead, Dylan. Actually, who is that? Is that, Dylan Gray up the inside of Gavin Cox.
Yep.
Side by side through turn 6. They actually make it work. The number 6 gets on through. As you see at Gilbert, yeah, just not close enough. And Mason actually, again, does enough of a job there off of turn 9 to get the run down here to 11 and 12, although he then absolutely runs it up and over the curb in a bit of an awkward way through 11. And Gilbert close. Oh, and Craig Mason's actually going to get out of the way.
Yep.
Oh, Craig, you were doing just what you needed to do. You didn't need to give up that one there.
Yeah, I think though, it's probably a confidence thing as much as anything else. He knows that he's got the championship leader behind him. Doesn't want to ruin his race. So, sure, it's all well and good to battle him, but his battle in this race and the championship is not with Aaron Gilbert. Let him go. Let Gilbert fight on with the guys that he's battling in the championship with. Mason can have his own battle with a guy that he's been battling with all race long, that being Lindsay Hobbs. But Gilbert up to 5th. I can't see him getting to Dan Stevens in 2.5 laps. I mean, he could maybe get there, but how's he going to get past Gavin Cox and Dylan Gray and Dan Stevens in 2.5 laps? I don't think he can do it.
So, sure, I had thought I'd have him shoot in for second place tonight, but yeah, this number 1 Falcon, maybe it's a preservation thing. He was leading the championship coming into tonight. He won race 1. He extends his championship margin over Henry King. It's not ideal to lose points, but he's only losing 18 points to Henry King as it stands with this finishing result, and he gained 6. So gap was therefore 105 points between the Jinx Shifters cars at the end of race 1. It'll then shrink back to, what'll that be? 88 points? I think 88 points. That's still quite a healthy margin with 2 races remaining in the season. It'll take, realistically, a very full field and 2 absolutely horrendous results for the number 1 car to really give up the championship at this point. That might also be a thing in Aaron's mind, depending on what he knows about the championship point situation. But he's going to go for it on Gavin Cox here at turn 9. Oh, he's going to spin the triple 5. That could be big. Oh, it takes Craig Mason with them all as well.
Wow. This is controversial, and straight away Aaron Gilbert got on the brakes, realised, well, I'm not going to be able to redress this. I'm going to have to drive on. And this is going to be painful. Post-race penalty you would feel incoming for Aaron Gilbert. I mean, we're not in race control, but the fact that there was a concertina effect that took out 2 drivers in the top 6. Aaron Gilbert, I mean, it looked like he put his hand up straight away to start redressing and then realised he couldn't.
And I mean, yeah, we've seen contact like that tonight already. Instant drive-through penalties, or in that case, therefore 30-point penalty. And that's actually even worse, I'd argue.
I agree.
A 30-point penalty post-race is going to be more severe than a drive-through penalty with the drivers that are out here on circuit, as Henry King brings it off Danny Long Road for the final time tonight. And he might have just been given an absolutely golden gift from a rare error from teammate Aaron Gilbert. Round turn 12, he will come, lights the rears one final time. Had to settle for P2 in race 1, Jay, but Henry King will put him another win on the board for himself here in the 2022 V8 season. Well clear of Dan Stevens, who in a bit deep there at the final turn, but will get round ahead of Dylan Gray, and the man's quite happy about that one there. Indeed, that's a solid result and drive for him there, I think, despite being off strategy tonight compared to what he was preferring. And it's a bit busy on the front stretches here. Henry King's already set to work burning up the rears.
And those Dunlops will be used again.
Getting some good tyre smoke in there for good measure as well. We'll wait for the field to wrap things up here tonight, and then we can bring up the results for you here in the second race of the Logitech G V8SCOPS V8 race here at Sandown tonight to conclude the 15th event for the Support Series here in 2022. And, well, here are your top 10. Henry King, well clear at the end of that race. Again, the Jinx Shifters cars unmatched in clear air. 14.1 seconds ahead of Dan Stevens in second. Dylan Gray does a good job to come up from P10 in that race, but we'll have to settle for P3 in that one there tonight, ahead of Lindsay Hobbs, who then is elevated to 4th after that contact between Aaron Gilbert and where has Gavin Cox dropped to? P7 there, along with Craig Mason there in 6th. So, yeah, that could be a pretty big deal there for Aaron Gilbert because, yeah, 30-point post-race penalty. Definitely a lot worse than losing 2 spots on the road. We'll see what race control does with that, and probably have to report on that to everyone come the final round in 3 weeks' time. So Hobbs, Gilbert, Mason, Cox there at the end of that little kerfuffle at Danny Long Road. Stead Miller, after being in a pretty good spot opening part of the race, Jay, unfortunately have to settle for P8 tonight. Ahead of Tim Nicol there in 9th, and that also concludes the drivers finishing on the lead lap of the race. Anthony Green will be the first driver 1 lap down, and the only one driver 1 lap down there in P10.
Tale of woe from there on back, though. Thomas Riley, Lance Childs, Hayden Johnson all finished the race. Actually, sorry, Johnson did not. He got a mechanical black flag with 4 laps to go, so I had to pull it over. But Nathan Tregarthen, he also did get back out there right at the end, but he finishes 15 laps down. Bruns, Sipple, Crosby, and Kennedy all involved in lap 1 incidents, unfortunately. A messy start to that one, but a fantastic finish. Controversial finish, and one that race control will no doubt be discussing quite aggressively right now. Dan, I believe you've got a couple of drivers coming to have a chat with you.
We do indeed. So let's pick up the race winner here from the second one tonight, and also the second place goes to his name in race number 1 earlier tonight. Henry King here with us in the comms box. Well, Henry had to obviously, started strong, I should say, first of all, tonight with qualifying right up there with, of course, Aaron at the front of the field. You guys absolutely walked away from the front tonight in clean air in race 1.
Yeah, Brett and Aaron put in a lot of setup work in the last couple of weeks, and a good amount of practice between Aaron and myself, and we knew we had car pace. The biggest concern was being able to use it in the second race. So to just walk away from the field in the first one, we were pretty happy. Both of us quite chuffed actually with the run into turn 1. We the relative on the way into 1 on the first lap was 0-0, so it was good.
It was certainly looking pretty close to a dead heat into turn 1. You're not wrong there at all. And, well, yeah, race 2 had to certainly work your way through it there. And we're potentially informed that a small error from Aaron there, caught out by having the pit boxes at the very end of the lane there, meant he put himself on the back foot there tonight, trying to go for an early pit stop in the race. Whereas you sort of opted for sort of splitting it more down the middle of sorts, coming in, where was it there? Did 16
lap 10, yeah.
So almost not too far off halfway there, but still going for a bit more of a conventional strategy for these cars. Sort of, was there a point where you were thinking about maybe making an early stop in the race, given with the way traffic was going, or were you sort of pretty hard set on that kind of roughly halfway plan early on?
Before the lights went out, we were both thinking an early stop somewhere between lap 2 and 6. But I got a ripper start, and a couple of rows in front of me seemed to go nowhere. So I think I'd made 12 spots in the first lap and figured I'd truck on with that. And by lap 5, I was in third and relatively clean air. So pushed until I had a clear gap that I could come out on track without any other cars on track. So took the stop, come out in clean air, and kept going.
Oh, indeed. Certainly worked in your favour by the time the pit cycle shuffled out. And of course, Aaron needing to take his stop a little later than planned with a second trip down the lane. And also, controversially, some contact with Gavin Cox at turn 9 on the final lap might see him issued a post-race penalty of some form. We'll hear hopefully about that and be able to advise on that at some point in due course. But what it could mean is that the championship gap, which has been pretty constant between you two, being obviously finishing up near the front most of the time and every now and again switching the order around for us, might close things up down to the order of around maybe 50, 60 points between the two of you going into the final 2 races. Do you, I mean, obviously that's all to be decided. So with the margin as it currently stands, we're looking at about 88 points going into the final 2 races based on results if they stay as they are or thereabouts. Sort of, it's going to have to be going to be a big climb forward or some serious errors from Aaron to really change things around. But eyes forward for the championship, the final race of the championship, and sort of put your best foot forward there.
Definitely, I want to do a couple of 2-1 finishes and to finish off the season would be nice. Without Aaron having some misfortune in either race, it's unlikely that I can beat him. I worked out before tonight that he'd have to finish 7th as the lowest, and he'd wrap up the series even with me winning all the races, but he'd win by like 3 points or something like that. But yeah, when he come out of the lane, he was in 7th, and I reminded him that he doesn't have to push, but I know he's a racer and he wants to push, and ideally he would have liked to have been in front of me or right behind me as I crossed the finish line, but a little error. He wasn't happy on his end what he'd done, so I'll have a talk with the other admin about what happens afterwards.
Yes, indeed, we will. Well, Road America, the final stop on the Grand V8SCOPS schedule, at least, and also therefore the final stop for the V8s on a Friday and Saturday night. We return to the double-header format that we've seen a couple of times this season as all our support categories in the course. The V8s, the 2-litre Tourers, and the Flat 6s will be making one final appearance there. But with the V8s in particular, the car and track combination, how are you going to be feeling about that one at this stage? Or will that be a case of working on that one a little bit more as the weeks progress, since we've got 3 weeks to go till that final round?
Given off tonight's pace and really the last few rounds pace that Aaron and I've had, we're quietly confident that we can lock out the front row again. But with Road America having those ridiculous long straights, the tow might come into effect. So if there's other teams running a wild card or something like that to help them out in qualifying, even we could come undone. But we're confident of our abilities, and I am of mine for sure, and the race cars that we've had have been brilliant. So we're pretty keen.
Well, there we go. Look forward to seeing how things go then. As I said, championships aside, and plenty of racing to come our way there in 3 weeks' time at Road America. Before we let you go, Henry, who do you want to thank tonight for the results?
I've got to thank Jinx Shifters, of course. They've been a great supporter for HR for the last couple of years now. Ratu on the car, V8 Sleuth as well. 5th Gear Motoring, and probably the big one is SimSpeed for the broadcast, the OSR race control, and Logitech G for getting behind the series. There's a few prizes coming the way that hasn't been announced yet, but I've got a delivery from Logitech here, so that'll get announced before the final round.
Well, there you go. Look forward to hearing about some more there. in that case as well. Race 2 winner Henry King, also P2 in race number 1 for him. We'll hand him off again and quickly chat to the man who came home P2 in race number 1 to also back up a P3 in race 1. I said P2 in race 1. It's P2 in race 2. P3 in race 1. Dan Stevens joins us in the comm box now. And Dan, definitely was another one of the drivers having to work your way with the reverse grid format back here tonight in race 2. Kept your nose clean, which was obviously one of the more important things. We definitely caught a bit of chaos in behind you there. Unfortunately, not quite the pace of Henry and Aaron over the course of a race run tonight, but still crucial result and points for you there.
Yeah, pretty reckless tonight's results. Having a top 5 on both of them, it's pretty awesome. But I say this week after week, Henry and Aaron are just in another league by themselves. We've tried everything this week to try and close that gap to those guys, but we do, and then they just run away again. So there's something magical they've unlocked that we still haven't figured out yet, but we're going to keep on digging at it and try and get there.
Well, glad to hear you guys still aren't out of the fight when it comes to preparation and such, as that certainly will make all the difference coming into the final races at Road America in 3 weeks' time. But yeah, coming into the pits there early at the start of lap 2, Aaron Gilbert there, actually a bit of a blunder from him, which did give you a bit of a free kick there. But coming in there and following him, what was the original plan there? Since obviously that was quite early, right at the start of the compulsory pit window.
I was going to follow what Aaron did because I knew he was, because I was right behind him and he was going to definitely pit to get out of traffic, and that was my plan straight away, because if I didn't, I would have lost out a lot more. So I'm glad I actually did, and he made that mistake, and I nearly missed mine too, because I didn't realise that because of reverse grid, the garage spots get reversed as well. And it wasn't until I saw my guy waving a lollipop like right there, I quickly tuned in, so I was quite lucky.
Well, there we go. Good to note that one there indeed then. Well, in that case, certainly just a little bit luckier tonight in that case. And, well, 3 weeks of preparation then, or 3 weeks to prepare for the races at Road America to wrap the championship up. You're in with a remote mathematical chance. It would take a monumental disaster for the HJR duo up front to change things around. But all things considered, any thoughts on the car track combination and what that'll look like for you when we get there?
Last season we were actually pretty good there with against Henry and Aaron, but my setup that I had back then was very, very understeery in the kink, so I've got to work on that. If I can sort that out, I think we'll be up there with the guys. Fingers crossed. I'd like to have a close race with them. Try and mix it up a bit, try and put some pressure on them, make some mistakes, and try and get a win this season, or another win this season, I should say.
Yeah, well, look forward to hopefully seeing you put your best foot forward then in that case. Before I let you go, Dan, who do you want to thank tonight for the results?
First off, you guys for the broadcast, and Jay does a lot of work and behind the scenes and stuff like that. Every week, it's 100% awesome. And obviously you as well, Dan. Get the team, Middle Finger Racing, Mad As Designs, WP Concreting, Snap On Tools, Aussie Signs and Designs, and Virtual Car Art. Couldn't do it without them.
There we are. Dan Stevens, 3rd place in race 1, 2nd place in race 2, keeps his championship hopes alive for the time being. And one final driver chat with to round out our podium from race number 2, and we'll bring in Dylan Gray, number 6 machine. Joining the series tonight, Dylan, obviously a bit of a late starter for this one here, and unfortunately for you there, a bit of a rough run in race number 1. Sort of talk us through that opening race for you. How much experience have you got in these older supercars here on the iRacing platform, first of all?
About, call it 2 years worth of experience in the old supercars. I prefer the old ones over the new ones because they're easier to get the power on coming out the corner and that. But first race, did a couple of rookie mistakes in that, which I shouldn't have done, but otherwise it was an alright race. Almost got back up to the top 10, which I was happy. Got 11th, which is still happy for the first race with the SCOPS series and that.
Yeah, indeed. Well, yeah, obviously a bit of an up and down moment for you there, but did put you mid-pack for race 2, but it looks like, yeah, certainly able to really capitalise there, all things considered. So opening couple of laps in race 2 were pretty chaotic once again as well. Sort of, what was it like with you, obviously, they're sitting there, you're sort of working your way through the field. One of the drivers who pitted late as well in that race was staying out long there and getting the clean air as drivers pulled off for earlier pit stops really valuable, in your opinion, for keeping track position as the pit cycle sorted itself out?
Yes, track position around Sandown's really key to trying to stay in the pack with staying clean air, and that's why I think so late. And also with the fresher tyres, I can get the power on coming out of the corner better than all the ones that pitted earlier on in the race. And that, like, coming to the second last lap, I went Aaron Gilbert was going to catch me, and there goes the podium, and all of a sudden I just see smoke in the rear view mirror at Dandy Road, and I went, P3, how could I do that again?
Well, clearly got some pace in the car, and yeah, well, we've certainly got some guys who are pretty quick in this one. There's a good element of fortune and a bit of luck too to go along with it. Well, the series returns in 3 weeks' time, well, for the final 2 races, when SCOPS rolls round to Road America. Will we see you back out on the track here in the V8s for that one there across the Friday and Saturday nights? We'll have those 2 races spread out there.
You'll definitely see me around Road America. Road America is one of the good tracks I'm good at in that, especially around in the Legacy Supercar, and that, especially going through the kink onto the back straight as well.
Well, look forward to seeing you then out on the road. Before we let you go, who do you want to thank tonight for the result here in race 2?
Ferris Shifters, who is a mate of mine who does sequential shifters. Also, you guys putting on the broadcasts and that, and the sponsor Logitech as well for sponsoring the series.
Well, there we are. Dylan Gray rounds out the podium tonight in race number 2 there with the result for 3rd. And that will mean we wrap things up here tonight as the beginning of the action from Sandown for this weekend. And well, confirmation from race control. 30-point post-race penalty has been issued to Aaron Gilbert for the incident with Gavin Cox on that final lap at Dandenong Road. That tightens up the championship quite a bit there, Jay, as we were saying, and therefore it has blown the door open to Henry King to being just that little bit more possible in terms of securing a championship here in the dying breath of the season, which, as you can see here on screen, will be coming to you live across 2 nights, Friday the 25th and Saturday the 26th of November at 8:30 p.m. Australian Daylight Time there with, as I said, the V8s, the 2-litre and the flat 6s, Jay, all making their final appearances there.
Yeah, all the championships are still up for grabs. I mean, some are closer than others, but all still are not settled yet. So it's going to be a very, very fun night of racing. And yeah, the fact that we've just seen Race Control confirm that there is a post-race post-race points penalty, I should say, going to be placed on Aaron Gilbert means that the championship is absolutely wide open. Make sure you watch this one because it is going to be absolutely thrilling. Bring it on. Only 3 weeks away from the finale of V8SCOPS 2022. And yeah, the support series has been absolutely brilliant the whole way through.
Yep. Bit of trivia for you. That 30 points penalty is the equivalent of Aaron Gilbert finishing 15th instead of 5th.
That's huge.
In that second race.
So he'll be regretting that overtake attempt now.
Yep, it closes the margin down now by quite a bit. But what we'll do is, I think, hopefully, if we're extra prepared, we might even get live points prepared. How about that? Is that a novel thought?
We'll see what we can do. We'll see what magic we can weave.
We can see what magic we can weave thanks to the power of iRacing overlays and some foresight and preparation on the admin front. But let's wrap things up here for tonight. Thank you all for joining us here at Sandown for the penultimate round of the Logitech G V8SCOPS Support Series here in 2022. The action continues from Sandown come Sunday night. Round 14 of the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS Series will be here. 2 125-kilometre races for Split 1, which is a total of 82 laps of racing across the course there. We've got an additional 41 lap race, 125 Ks for Super Split 2. That will open the proceedings for the evening at 6:15 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. So we'll be live at about 6 p.m. on Sunday to pick things up there. And, well, in between all that, we're back for the major series. The championship finale, Homestead Miami Speedway, 267 laps in the NASCAR Next Gens. And we've got, as I said, both of the International Region Championships are still up for grabs there, Jay. Bumper weekend, but it is coming to a head. And it's going to be it's a great, fantastic way to be able to put all these championships up here in the dying rounds of their seasons.